Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto revived by mysterious man. If you enjoy then please like share and do comments. Atop the colossal main gates that lead to Kahona, a Chunin guard watches as three individuals walk down the path. From the way they move, he can tell that they are shinobi. Gesturing to his fellow guards, the Chunin called attention to the three. After brief nods, he jumps down in front of them as they come within 10 meters of the gates. Halt! The guard called, "Who are you and what is your business?" The tallest one, a man with silver hair, steps forward. Team 7 returning from a mission to Wave Country. The guard then noticed the Kohana forehead protector covering the left eye of the speaker and immediately recognized him. "Oh sorry Kakashi, I didn't recognize you for a moment." The Chunin paused and looked at the only visible eye and noted that the normal lazy expression was absent. He then glanced at Kakashi's companions and noticed a lack of a third member. "Where's your other team member?" The look from the two genins was all it took for him to understand. "You should go to the Hokage and report." Without a word, the three tired-looking shinobi entered their home. The Chunin guard watched them go, feeling sympathy for the team. He had lost a member on his team when he was a genin as well. His thoughts were interrupted by his fellow guard landing next to him. "Hey, who was that?" "Genin Team 7, the first guard stated. They lost a member on their mission." "Which member?" the second asked. "Don't know," the first answered. "Did you see a boy with black hair?" a third asked. "Yeah," the first responded, followed by a girl with pink hair. "Good," the second said with a sadistic smile. "Good?" the first asked, angered. "What's so good about it?" Team 7 consisted of the last Uchiha, some no-name girl, and him. The third guard said the last part with venom in his speech. "Him?" the first asked. "Him who?" The others two gave him a look and it dawned on the guard who him was. "And to think I was feeling sorry for him a moment ago. Good riddance, he should have been killed years ago." "You're telling me," the second agreed. "To think the last Uchiha had to be teamed up with it. At least now it's gone," the third said, "and the Uchiha won't be dragged down by it." The others nodded in agreement and went back to their posts. There was a knock on the Hokage's door. For a moment the old leader smiled. He hated doing paperwork and someone wanting to see him was a good excuse to stop. "Come in," he called. The people that entered surprised him. Team 7. Only Team 7 was not complete. Waiting patiently for the report, he already knew what the most important part was. "Hokage-sama," Kakashi began, "we have just come back from the C-rank mission to Wave Country that was assigned to us. The mission turned out to be an A rank, which involved missing nin from Hidden Mist. And as a result of the missing nin's former employer, the third member of Team 7, Uzumaki Naruto, is dead." The third Hokage glanced at the two remaining genins and saw their pain. Sakura was barely holding back the tears after the mention of her blonde teammate. Sasuke held a placid look on his face, but his eyes showed a mix of fury and sadness. The third had seen this look on him before, when he had to ask him about the death of his clan. He had hoped to never see the look on the air ever again. "Thank you Kakashi," he finally said. Turning to the two genins he continued, "You two may leave now. We will make arrangements for a funeral soon." Sasuke nodded and pulled the now crying Sakura out of the room. As they left, the Hokage thought, "I'm afraid that those two may be some of the very few that will come to his funeral." Turning his attention back to Kakashi he asked, "What happened?" Kakashi took a deep breath and began. "A battle started on top of the bridge our client was constructing at the time." Sasuke squared off the masked boy from earlier, now known as Haku. At first the battle between the two appeared to be even. Thanks to the training that Sasuke had gone through, he was able to keep up with the missing nin. That was until the masked boy started performing one-handed hand seals, a feat that even Kakashi had never witnessed before. Suddenly the battle turned against the Leaf Shinobi as needles made of ice began to fly at Sasuke. For a brief moment it appeared that Haku had the upper hand, but because of his recent chakra training Sasuke was able to match Haku's speed and able to dodge the needles. Now the situation was reversed as Sasuke soon gained the upper hand. Sasuke kicked the Haku back, Kakashi told. There was an exchange between Zabuza and Haku activated his blood limit. The Hokage listened intrigued as the Junin told the story of the demise of his favorite loudmouth. Haku was able to create a prison of ice mirrors and trapped Sasuke. The fight continued for several minutes and it appeared that Sasuke was about to lose, Then Naruto showed up as only he could. Kakashi paused, a sad smile forming under his mask. After his entrance, Naruto entered Mirror Prison and the two of them became trapped. During this time I was in a battle with Zabuza and was unable to assist them. Zabuza then thickened the mist and I lost track of them. Then what happened? The Hokage urged. This comes from Sasuke, Kakashi continued. The two of them were trapped and were losing badly. Naruto, after creating several waves of Kage Bushin, was beginning to tire. And at this point Sasuke was able to activate the Sharingan, but that did not help. He was not fast enough to be able to dodge the Senbon needles Haku was hurling at them. Another brief pause. Haku then targeted Naruto alone and drew Sasuke towards Naruto, hitting him with the needles in pressure point places, making him appear to have died. And you don't know what happened after that, the Hokage guessed. No, I know, Kakashi said. Then continue. I was still fighting Zabuza when I felt a sudden surge of chakra. Naruto knelt down as Sasuke's eyes closed and his breathing stopped. Sasuke? He asked. When he got no response, Naruto felt unrestrained anguish, grief and rage. Seeing his friend lying there lifeless caused an unimaginable level of chakra to erupt from his body. Further down on the bridge, Kakashi paused in his fight against Zabuza. Oh no. He thought, the fourth seal, it's breaking. After an intense few seconds, Kakashi thought again, no, not yet, but it's close, and unless I end this soon it will break. Reaching into his vest, Kakashi pulled out his dog summoning scroll and announced, I'm sorry I have to end this so soon, Zabuza. But I can't let this fight continue. Gathering the blood from the wounds Zabuza had given him, Kakashi performed the hand seals required to summon his nin dogs. After he performed the seals and slammed his hand onto the ground, he noticed that the chakra Naruto was producing suddenly disappeared. What happened? Kakashi thought. One moment he seems to be using the Kyuubi and then the chakra is suddenly gone. No matter, I have to end this now. Just as his dogs found and capture the missing nin, Kakashi then begins the seals for his most powerful jutsu, lighting EGDE. He begins to dash to the immobilized Zabuza when the screech of the female member of his team stops him. Naruto. A few moments earlier, back at the fight between Naruto and Haku, Naruto is about to finish off Haku when the mask breaks. Naruto is brought out of his rage when he sees the familiar face of the girl-like boy he met in the forest. Why did you stop? Haku asked. You had the advantage, you should have killed me. But why? Naruto demands, gesturing to Sasuke. To protect my precious person, Haku answers. Naruto is about to respond when he catches a glint rushing towards them. Acting on pure instinct, he pushes Haku out of the way and is impaled on an arrow that was shot from further down the bridge. Standing in front of Tanzuna, Sakura notices that the fog has become a little less thick and begins to search for her teammates. While searching, she catches a glint of an object traveling and follows its path until she sees Naruto push the boy that he and Sasuke were fighting and take a hit from an arrow. Naruto. Haku cannot believe his eyes. The boy he was fighting pushed him out of the way, took an arrow for him. The boy drops to the ground. The arrow pierced the middle of his back. A part of him knew that it was a fatal wound, but that did not resist her as the boy began to stand, stumbled to the edge of the bridge and fell off. I turned just as Naruto fell and saw Haku turn to the source of the arrow, Kakashi explained. Zabuza and I both followed Haku's gaze to a large group of men holding various weapons. After an exchange of words, the men attacked Haku and he fought back. Zabuza broke free and rushed to Haku and I pursued. By the time I got there, he joined the battle and soon the men were all killed or driven off when the village citizens showed up. After that, Sasuke revived and then Haku and Zabuza left. I did not feel the need to pursue them any longer. They were only our enemy because Gato paid them. The Hokage nodded in understanding. After the battle, the entire village helped us search for Naruto's body. We searched for 4 days but we found no trace. Thank you, Kakashi, the Hokage said. You may leave now. Tell your team that the funeral will be in 1 week's time. Yes, Hokage-sama. A week later, those that were to attend Naruto's funeral gathered. A total of 6 people, including the remaining members of Team 7, the Hokage, Iruka-sensei, and surprisingly Hyuga Hinata, showed to pay their respects to the Kyuubi container. While the lack people confused the genins, the 3 adults were disgusted that so few people showed. Shaking his head, the Hokage stepped forward. I guess this is all that are going to show up. He paused to collect himself and began again. We are here to pay our last respects to a shinobi of Konoha. As all of us know, Naruto had one dream, to become the Hokage. He paused again, noticing the tears from the genins and sorrow of the two other men. I believe he died living up to that dream. He sacrificed himself for others. That is the true mark of someone great, some that would be worthy of the title. The Hokage stepped up to the memorial picture and placed a white rose next to it. The next that followed was Iruka-sensei, the one that best knew the boy. He placed his white rose alongside the Hokages and spoke, I hope you find the peace and friendship in the next life that you could not find in this one. He stepped back to let the next come forward. Sakura was next. She placed the third white rose next to the picture. I'm sorry I didn't treat you better, Naruto. If I knew this was going to happen, I would have gotten to know you better, maybe even let you have taken me out on a date. I hope you can forgive me for any pain I caused you. She backed away with a fresh set of tears. Kakashi was next and placed his flower. All he said was, I'm sorry, and left. Sasuke came next. Though he did not have a flower, he did have a set of custom-made shuriken. Thanks for trying to be my friend after my family died. And I'm sorry. The last to come up was Hinata. Unlike the rest, she carried a red rose and placed it on next to the others. Through her sobs she said, I'm sorry Naruto-kun, I wish I could have told you how much you meant to me. I promised to never give up just like you. After everyone else left, the Hokage approached Kakashi. I will have to place your team on the reserve list until another can fill Naruto's spot. Kakashi nodded. Just don't let it be too soon, they need time. The Hokage nodded. By the way, where's your grandson? He's still not feeling well after hearing the news, the Hokage answered. The whole village should have been here mourning, not celebrating. The Hokage frowned once again. Kakashi nodded in agreement and the two left. Several days' travel away from Konoha, just outside of Wave Country's border, a man wearing a black cape, with blonde hair and his eyes are closed, moves through a small forest near the ocean. The way he moves makes it seem like he is not even touching the ground. He enters a small cave on a mountainside. When he enters, he comes across a boy lying on straw, covered with blacks with small pieces of parchment hovering around him. The boy lying on straw has blonde hair and whisker-like marks on his cheeks. The man with closed eyes comes to a sudden stop and speaks, You are an interesting boy. The boy stirs for a moment and his eyes begin to open. Where am I? The boy's voice is hoarse, from his long rest. You are far from your home, the black-caped man answers. Who are you? The boy asks. You may call me Darkness. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. He barely gets out before falling back into unconsciousness. Darkness moves closer and opens his cape. The pieces of parchment fly into it and he shuts it again. Sleep well, Uzumaki Naruto, you have a long journey coming soon. The next day Naruto wakes fully healed though still tired. Looking around the cave, his eyes come across a man standing to his side wearing a black cape. Naruto feels he knows this man and thinks for a moment, Darkness, right? Yes, Uzumaki Naruto, Darkness answers. The Yoma Kyuubi gives you fast healing. Naruto freezes. How do you know about Kyuubi? He manages to squeeze out. I could sense it when I found you, Darkness responds. Naruto tries to stand but Darkness interrupts him. You are still weak, should not try to stand yet. Naruto looks at Darkness for a moment and notices that his eyes are closed. Hey, how did you know I was trying to stand if your eyes are closed? Darkness does not respond, making Naruto angry. Hey, answer me. Still nothing. Open your eyes and look at me when I'm talking to you. As you wish. Darkness slowly opens his eyes. Naruto becomes shocked when he sees nothing but blackness as Darkness opens his eyes. It takes several minutes for Naruto to find his voice again. What are you? An observer and to some a teacher, Darkness replies. Not much had changed about Konoha since that fateful mission when Genin Team 7 lost their first third teammate. The only things that changed were that people grew older and the occasional personality change from a few select group of people that were close to Kyuubi's prison. The ones that changed the most were his teammates and only other genin that came to his funeral. After the funeral, Sasuke threw himself into his training. After that day when he said goodbye to his teammate, he vowed he would never lose another. During the team's time on the reserve list, he would spend all his time training his body and developing his Sharingan. Within 5 months after he first activated it, he had developed his eyes to same level of Kakashi. Many praised him for his accomplishments but he ignored them. He pretty much cut himself off from everyone except his teammate Sakura and teacher Kakashi. And though he did not become a Chunin until a year after many of the rest of the 9 that graduated with him, his skills had already become the talk of the entire village. Because Team 7 was on the reserve list, they were still able to go missions, and it was there he truly proved his worth. Every mission he went on was a success, and every mission would come back with no casualties. After a new third member of Team 7 was finally selected from the next year's graduating class, they were permitted to enter the Chunin exam. He easily passed the requirements to be promoted, and only after 6 months of being a Chunin Sasuke became an Anbu. And then 6 months after that he became an Anbu captain. But perhaps the greatest change to his personality was his humility. Before the fateful mission he had been somewhat arrogant to those around him, and if asked how he was so strong he would give them a look that said, "Because I am." Now whenever he was asked he would simply answer, "I'm just fulfilling a promise." Sasuke's teammate Sakura had also changed greatly. Ever since she became a genin, Sakura had doubt about her abilities. She had perfect control, but that was about it. Ever since the time Naruto was killed she decided to do what he did. Take the skill she was worst at and make it her strength. Because she lacked stamina she trained tirelessly with the self-proclaimed eternal rival of Hitaki Kakashi, Gai-sensei, as he liked to be called. With Gai's help Sakura was able to increase her stamina dramatically. She still kept her perfect control and was able to incorporate it into her new stamina. With this she became as much known for her raw physical power as well as her brains. It was said that if Sakura and the Green Beast, Gai's protege Rock Lee, were to ever fight neither would win. While Lee had the speed, Sakura had the power. Fortunately this theory was never tested. Using her strength Sakura was able to pass the Chunin exam at the same time as her teammate Sasuke. Though she did not immediately go higher in rank about year after she became a Junin, one of the youngest in Konoha history. She has yet to take a genin team, saying she is not yet ready for that yet. Her personal life also took a change after Naruto died. She no longer solely went after Sasuke, though she still has feelings for him. She has opened up to many of those around her. Rock Lee especially, from the first time she met him she thought he was somewhat like Naruto. The one who changed the most was Hinata. She took her promise to the loudmouth to heart and never gave up. The first change came in her fighting. She stopped being so afraid of her opponents that she was finally able to show that she was a very capable fighter. In first Chunin exam she ended up facing her elder cousin Neji in the final matches. And though she lost she showed exceptional skill and intelligence in the fight, earning the respect of her father and sister who were watching in the stands and the respect of her cousin as well. Because of the skill she showed, Hinata was promoted to Chunin. From there she found her real calling as a medic. She had always been good at making healing creams, and with her Byakugan she became quite skilled at medical jutsus. And later she surprised everyone by learning how to combine medical taijutsu with gentle fist. Now it's said that if she were to fight her cousin again the fight would be very different. The biggest change was her personality. Before she was timid and shy to a fault. Now however she was friendly and personable, making her one of the most popular medics at the hospital. The 3 that changed the least were the adults that attended the funeral. The Hokage was still the kind yet strong leader with a bit of perverted side, which is why he constantly loses to his grandson's no jutsu. Kakashi was still the lazy, though less late, Junin as before. And Iruka was still a Chunin instructor at the academy, though now he takes extra time to help those who are considered dead last. Currently there is a meeting taking place at Ichiruka ramen stand. Ever since the passing the 3 former genin would come here every so often and have some ramen in honor of their fallen friend. So Hinata, Sakura began, "How's the hospital?" "Busy," Hinata replies. Sasuke's squad had some rather heavy injuries from their mission a couple of days ago. She looks over to Sasuke and gently throws a bottle to him. "Here, this is a bit better than the stuff they gave you at the hospital." "Thanks," Sasuke says, then continues to eat his ramen. "How have you been, Sakura?" "Bored lately," she sighs. "Not much to do. Haven't been any descent missions lately." Although training with Lee-san is always entertaining. The others smile knowing what she means after having met the thick-browed teenager. Conversation continues to be light until each has eaten their fill and goes their separate ways. All enjoying their friendship that should not have come in the way it did. A couple of days later a stranger wearing a deep red and black outfit comes to the main gates of Konoha. This figure is a little over 165 centimeters, 5.5 feet, in height. He wears a mask that covers the lower half of his face and a hood to hide the rest. If one were to look into his eyes, they would see a set of deep blue eyes with slightly vertical slits. Though he moves at a casual pace, it is easy for the trained eye to know he is never off guard. When he finally arrives the gates, the guards move to stop him. Not wanting to cause trouble, the stranger stops and lets the guards come to him. "What is your business here?" the head guard asks. "Just visiting some old friends," the person responds in a male voice. "Let me see some ID, the guard says. "Sorry, I don't have any," the man says. "I haven't been here for a few years and my ID expired." "Then I'm afraid you will have to see the administration office to get it renewed," the guard responds. "And you will have to escort it all the way." "I understand," the man says. "If it is not too much trouble, might I be able to see the Hokage as well?" The request puts the guard on edge for a moment. That will be up to him. "Hey Shikamaru, Choji, get your lazy butts over here." Two people with Chunin vests come closer. The stranger glances at them for a moment, then turns back to the head guard. "What do you want?" asks the lazy Chunin. "I need you and the meat tank to escort this guy to the administration office." "Troublesome," Shikamaru said. "Fine, let's go." After a few minutes walking, Choji speaks to Shikamaru. "Hey Shikamaru, does this guy seem familiar to you?" "Maybe." Shikamaru glances back at the stranger. Earlier he noticed he had deep blue eyes and that seemed to cause recognition, but he just could not remember from where. "We could have seen him as kids. He does appear to be about our age." Choji, now even more curious, turns back and asks, "Hey, have we met before?" "Yes," the stranger answers, "when we were younger. I was alone a lot, so I don't think you'd remember me." Shikamaru, now intrigued, turns back and asks, "What's your name?" "My name really doesn't matter," the stranger responds. He begins to move faster and moves past them, causing the two to speed up to catch him. The rest of the way is nothing but silence, the two Chunins wondering whom this person was. Once they arrived at the administration office, the stranger spoke again. "Do you think the Hokage will see me?" "That will be up to him," Choji answered. "We'll take you to him first," Shikamaru added. "He can get your ID reinstated if he is willing to see you. It will be less troublesome for us." The stranger nodded and the three proceeded into the building. After a few minutes of walking, they came upon the office of the Hokage and were stopped by two Junin guards. "What is your purpose here?" the sickly-looking one asks. "Hey Hayate, this guy wants to see the Hokage and get his ID reinstated," Shikamaru answers. The other Junin gives the stranger a glance and asks, "What's his name?" "He didn't give it, Genma," Choji responds. "Then he can't see the Hokage," Genma replies. Inside his office, the Hokage is taking a quick break to smoke his pipe. There has not been any real activity lately, so his workload is light. He decided to take a break since there was no rush and went out to his balcony to gaze at Hokage monument. His gaze rests on the last one for a minute and he sighs. "It's been a little over 2 years since your legacy has died forth. I'm sorry I didn't protect him better." After his apology, he makes his way back inside. The third is about to get back to work when he senses something peculiar outside his door. He waits a few moments and hears some people talking. Relenting to his curiosity, the Hokage goes to open the door. Outside in the hallway, the two Chunins and stranger are about to leave when the door opens and the Hokage comes out. "What is going on out here?" "We are sorry for the commotion, Hokage-sama," Genma replies. "But this stranger wanted to see you. He did not give his name, so we sent him away." The Hokage looks at the person in the deep red and black outfit. For some reason he seems to recognize the person. "Send him in," he finally replies. "I will see what he has to say." "Yes, Hokage-sama," Genma replies. He and Hayate stand aside and the stranger passes through. Once the door closes, the Hokage faces the stranger and asks, "So who are you and why did you want to see me?" The stranger begins to remove his mask and hood. The first things the third noticed were the deep blue eyes the stranger had. His eyes widened a little at the familiarity of the eyes, but practically jumped out of his head when the stranger revealed blonde hair on his head and 3 whisker marks on each cheek. "Well, I wanted to see if you would let me back into the village, and I can guess you already know who I am, old man." Naruto?" the Hokage asked. "Is that you?" "Yeah, old man. It's me," Naruto responds. "Did you miss me?" Joy was the first thing that came to the third's mind when the teenager in front of him answered the affirmative. One of his greatest regrets, not being able to protect the legacy of the fourth, had just come back into his life. It was almost too good to be true, and then the more cautious side of his mind told him that this could be a trick by one of his enemies. Calming down, he asked, "How'd I know it's really you?" Naruto sighed, "Do you really want me to do the technique I taught your grandson?" The Hokage at first was surprised, then paled, and finally smiled at the thought of Naruto's no jutsu. "No, I don't think that will be necessary." He took a long look at the teenager before him and saw many of the changes. He wore a dark red pants with black trim, a tight shirt that was the reverse of his pants, a black cape that had the hood he removed earlier. His gaze traveled down to his hands and he saw Naruto now wore fingerless gloves. When he looked at the fingers he saw they were now more claw-like. Stunned for a moment, he looked back to his face and noticed for the first time that Naruto's eyes had slightly elongated pupils, making them look somewhat fox-like. Surprise was on the old man's face when he asked, "What happened to you?" Naruto sighed and sat in a nearby chair. "A lot, and I'll tell you about it, but first could you call my old friends here? I think it will be easier if I tell everyone at once." Of course, the Hokage called for the two outside his door. When they answered, he said, "Find Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, Iruka, and Hinata and bring them here immediately." The two guards bowed and went left. Hinata? Naruto thought, that shy girl from the academy. I guess she cared about me more than I thought. It should only take a few minutes. A few minutes later, 5 people that had come to know each other rather well met up once again outside the Hokage's office. "So he called you here as well," Kakashi said, still reading his Icha Icha Paradise book. "Do you think someone vandalized Naruto's grave again?" Hinata asked in a disgusted voice. "Possibly," Sasuke answers with just as much distaste. "I really wish they would give it a rest and leave him in peace." The others nodded in agreement as they entered the office. When they went inside, they were not expecting the Hokage's face to have a smile. Their previous theory was obviously not correct. "Good, you made good time. There is someone here who wishes to say hello." A person that went previously unnoticed before stood up from the chair. When he did, 5 gasps were heard at once. "Hey guys, it's good to see you again." The 5 were too stunned to make any kind of motion. The Hokage, seeing this, began to answer the questions that were going through everyone's minds. "Yes, this is Naruto. I questioned him myself. He just arrived a few minutes ago. And said he would say what happened to him once you arrived." The Hokage's answers seemed to bring everyone around and they looked at Naruto in anticipation. "First I have to ask, did they," gesturing to Sasuke, Sakura and Hinata, "know about what happened when I was a baby?" "Yes," Kakashi answered, "we told them after your funeral." "Funeral?" Naruto asks. He looks at their faces to see the sadness and decides to drop it. "Good, because first I should tell you it's gone. That's the reason for the claws and eyes." For the first time the 5 saw Naruto's hands and eyes, and understanding passed through their minds. "First let me explain how I survived." He paused for a minute then continued, "After I fell off the bridge I was rescued by a being named Darkness. I say being because the one that rescued me was not human nor demon, but something else. Even though now I don't know what he is, just that he has been alive for a very long time." "How long?" the Hokage interrupts. The name Darkness triggers something in his memory. "Longer than the shinobi countries have been in existence," Naruto answered. "Anyway, he said that even with his help the only reason I survived the fall, wounds and drowning was because of Kyuubi. After I was healed I tried to return but Darkness would not let me. He took west by some kind of teleportation to some ruins of an ancient civilization. There he trained for 2 years. It was only because of the Kyuubi's power that I was able to complete the training in 2 years. After my training was complete, Darkness freed the Kyuubi." Several gasps were heard interrupting Naruto. He looked at their horrified faces and said, "Relax, Darkness sent it back to the demon world and made sure it could never come back." "Then what about your changes?" Kakashi asked. "Well, these happened because of the power that I did absorb," Naruto answered. "And they became permanent even after the Kyuubi left. I still retained some of its power, like rapid healing." "So what did this Darkness teach you?" Sasuke asked. "Well, you probably wouldn't know even if I told you," Naruto said. "It was a lost art. But I will tell you it's quite powerful." Silence hung in the air for several minutes until the Hokage spoke up. "You may just get an opportunity to show us, Naruto." Everyone turned to look at him. "When I reinstate your shinobi status you will still be a genin, but I have a feeling that your skills are well beyond that level." So I must see your skills in order to reassess your level. Naruto gave his fox-like grin that everyone in the room had missed. Sure, old man, when will it take place? It will take me about a week's time before I can put everything together, the Hokage answered, but I will go ahead and reinstate you. It won't take long after that for word to spread about Naruto, Sasuke spoke up. That can't be helped, Kakashi said. But surely there's something you can do. Iruka began but was interrupted. It's all right, Iruka-sensei, Naruto cuts him off. The village will learn that I am not Kyuubi eventually. So there's no need for me to hide. The others were surprised at Naruto's calm answer. Well then, why don't you get yourself reacquainted with the village while I get back to work, the Hokage suggested. And the rest of you have the next few days off. Naruto smiled once again and said, Ichiruka ramen, here I come. The others laughed, glad to see their friend is back had not changed too much. The next day word had already spread about the return of the Kyuubi vessel. While a very few were glad, most loathed the idea about Naruto's return. It was a good thing no one knew where he was staying at, otherwise they may have done something that everyone would regret. When they could not find Naruto, several villagers approached the Hokage demanding to know where Naruto was. The Hokage silenced them by saying that the law was still in effect and anyone caught even mentioning the Naruto being the Kyuubi would be punished severely. Naruto was currently at Team 7's old meeting spot reminiscing about old times. He had to laugh at himself for the way he acted back then. He brought his head up and said, you know, back then I really was a dead last and an idiot. You two were right about me. Well, not everything, Sakura said coming up behind. We're glad you're back, Naruto. It took a shorter amount of time for word to spread than I thought, Sasuke greeted. Naruto just shrugged, so what did you want to talk about? Hokage-sama says your evaluation will be in 5 days' time, Sasuke said. Good, that will give a chance to train a little, Naruto smiled. Would you like some help? Sakura asked. Nope, Naruto smiles even more, don't want to give anyone any heads up until the day. He turned to look and saw some disappointment on their faces. Hey, don't worry about it. All I want to do is retain my title as the most surprising ninja in Konoha, he joked. The others chuckled in response. Fine, we'll leave you be for now, but just remember I'm going to be one of you opponents, Sasuke says. I want to personally see just how strong you've gotten. Don't worry, I've gotten stronger than even you can handle, Naruto boasts. Sakura smiles at the renewed rivalry. Well, we'll leave you alone then. But don't be surprised if Hinata pays you a visit soon. Okay, Sakura-chan, Naruto says confused. His two former teammates smile at his clueless expression and leave. Naruto continued to train the rest of the day. He currently has several practice logs set up around him. He took a shoulder-width stance. Then slowly brought his right leg up while leaning forward and pulling the raised leg back. After a brief pause he swung his leg and disappeared from sight. A second later he reappeared in his original stance, then relaxed. Another few more seconds passed and the practice logs suddenly crumbled. If anyone was watching they would have wondered just what he had done. He smiled at the results and decided to take a break, taking a rest under a tree, and noticed that someone was about to enter the area. Turning in that direction he saw, true to Sakura's prediction, Hinata coming to visit him. When she saw Naruto sitting under a tree, Hinata went over to sit next to him. After a brief period of silence Hinata began, Naruto-kun, there is something I want to tell you. Yes, Hinata was, is it? Naruto asked. He had been curious about her since he found out she had also attended his funeral 2 years ago. When we were at the academy, no, even before then, he used to watch you and I really admired you. And when I thought you were dead I regretted never telling you before. Naruto gave her a soft smile. Thank you for caring, Hinata, not many people did. Hinata blushed a little bit, starting to feel like her younger self again. I don't want to, miss. She began to trail off at the end. Fortunately Naruto had become more observant than when he was younger and caught on to what she was trying to say. Hey Hinata-chan, would you like to go and get something to eat? Naruto said. Hinata was surprised but also relieved and glad at Naruto's offer and simply nodded in compliance. Good, then you can tell me what you've been up to since I've been away. Hinata nodded again and the two left to enjoy dinner together. After the first day back Naruto spent most of his time training in secret. No one was able to see what the blonde was doing because no matter who would try and spy on him he would be seen simply sitting under a tree. Many suspected that he was able to sense anyone that approached. This alone gave rise to the ever-growing stories of the dead genin, Kyuubi vessel returning to life in the village. A day before the evaluation of Naruto's skills, the rumors had come to a fever pitch. Many were speaking about their anticipation, some for and some against. Those that knew about Kyuubi were scared that of the idea of it coming out, because they were not told it was gone. Those that were told, a select number of Anbu and Junin, were curious as to see how much stronger the teenager had become without the demon fox. Those around Naruto's age and thus did not know about Kyuubi in the first place wanted to see just what had changed about him. Especially Shikamaru and Choji. Once they learned it was Naruto, they escorted to the Hokage. Many of those that knew Naruto were still somewhat guilty that they decided to train or were too lazy to attend his funeral, more so, after they found out so few people actually attended. But the ones that were in the most anticipation were Kakashi, Iruka, Hinata, Sasuke, Sakura and the Hokage. The Hokage the most. He was still bothered by the name of Naruto's teacher while he was away. Naruto had decided to take the day off before the evaluation to rest. Although he was confident in his skill, the only person he knew he would be facing was Sasuke. He did not know what it would entice, nor would he know for how long. So rather than taking chances, he decided to skip his training and not run the risk of being too tired tomorrow. Naruto had thought that he would spend time with his friends on the last day. They were rather eager to join him because, although he would not divulge any of his style, it was kind of fun too for them to try to get some information. Kind of like a running joke for them. So you think your training actually helped you, Dobi? Sasuke said with a smirk. Better believe it, bastard, Naruto returned the smirk. The two had reverted to the old nicknames they had when they were still on the same team. Only this time they were not meant as insults, just a kind of brotherly teasing. And no, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Ah, come on Naruto, Sakura complained, just a hint. Please Naruto-kun, Hinata joined in, we are all curious about what you've been doing. Naruto sighed. If it had been anyone else, or even just one of them, Naruto would have just denied the request. Because it was Sakura and Hinata, he could not refuse. His old feelings for Sakura and his growing affection for Hinata made it impossible for him to resist their combined probing. Fine, but only if you give me a little heads up on the evaluation. Deal, Sasuke said, although I can only tell you about my part. Fine, Naruto agreed, but you first. My part would involve a showing of combat skills, Sasuke told, and there will be at least 2 other opponents besides me, and I won't tell you who they are. Don't want to give you too much warning. Alright, Naruto said, I'll tell you this. I use my feet and none of my skills can be copied. So you won't be able to counter my style, Sasuke. This had everyone intrigued. His statement about using his feet implied that he was now based in taijutsu, whereas before he showed an affinity to high-level ninjutsu. His ability to use Kage Bushin as a genin was the prime example. And the statement of his skills not being able to be copied intrigued them as well. So far the only jutsus that the Sharingan could not copy were bloodline limits. But what really got Sasuke's attention was Naruto's claim that he could not counter it. Sasuke had developed a name for himself by using the Sharingan to copy and counter another's jutsus. Unlike Kakashi, however, he would not copy and use the same technique. He would use a jutsu that would completely neutralize the other, thus earning him the name the counter ninja. Don't be so sure of that, Dobi, Sasuke said. I didn't get my name for nothing. We'll see, bastard, Naruto responded, then muttered, and I didn't get mine for nothing either. What was that last part, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, being the only one close enough to hear the mutter. What? Oh, nothing, Hinata-chan, Naruto answered. I just said it's getting late and I should get some rest. Well, see you tomorrow then, Sakura said for the group. After Naruto left, Sakura asked, do you think what Naruto said was true? Well, the old Naruto was boastful and had a huge tendency to exaggerate, Sasuke answered. But the Naruto we've gotten to know over the last couple of days doesn't seem to exaggerate. The fact that no one has been able to sneak up on him is a clear indication of his improvement. So you're saying you believe him, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked. What I'm saying is that I and his other opponents should be on our toes when we fight him, Sasuke said. So are his other opponents? Hinata asked. The ones I know for sure will be Rock Lee and Kurenai, Sasuke said. So they're going to test all aspects, taijutsu, ninjutsu and genjutsu, then, Sakura concluded. But Lee-san never mentioned anything about taking place in the evaluation. The others were decided yesterday, Sasuke said. I was the only one to volunteer. Although Kakashi did say that if I had not done so he would have. You said that there would be at least 2 others, Hinata said. Does that mean that others may come in? That is actually up to the Hokage, Sasuke said. I was in on the meeting about the combat test and the Hokage said that it may take more than just the 3 of us to get a real idea about how strong Naruto has become. After a pause he added, I think he knows more than he is letting on, or at least suspects more. Naruto sat on his bed in his new apartment. He had been going over what he had found out from Sasuke just a couple of hours ago. From what Sasuke told me he will be in the combat part, he thought. That would mean that they will probably be testing different skills. And that would mean they would test genjutsu, ninjutsu and taijutsu. None of them should be a problem, especially taijutsu and genjutsu. I doubt there will be anyone with illusions stronger than the ones darkness was able to make. Still I should not underestimate any of them. Naruto got up from his bed and looked out his window and gazed at the forest outside. His apartment was on the side of a building that faced away from the Hokage monument, and although he missed seeing their faces he was just as glad he could see the forest. He always liked being in the forests of Konoha when he was a child. Still that's not what worries me, Naruto continued thinking, they will also probably test my knowledge as well. And though darkness forced me to use my head more, I don't really know much about information. I guess I should have gone to the library and studied as well as trained. Oh well, too late now, might as well get some sleep. With that thought Naruto returned to his bed to get some sleep, still eager about the next day. The next day Naruto made his way to the Homage's office. He had been told to go there first for the first series of tests. He assumed that they would test his knowledge first. And when he entered the room and when he saw a group of Junin instructors as well as the Hokage and Iruka, he figured he assumed correctly. The Hokage gestured for Naruto to take the seat in front of the Junins and sat down. As soon as he sat, manacles immediately slapped onto his wrists, ankles and even around his throat. Hey, what's going on? Naruto demanded. Shut up, a heavily scarred Junin ordered. You really think the Hokage and the rest of us were fooled by you, demon? What are you? Naruto was silenced by punch to the face by the scared Junin. Now you will tell us what really happened. The scared one demanded. Naruto glanced around the room and noticed the placid looks of their faces. As he came to Iruka and the Hokage he saw neutral looks on their faces but their eyes held a covered, but still noticeable to him, look of sympathy and compassion. They're testing my resistance to interrogation, he thought. Well then, he then took a deep breath and spoke out loud, you won't get anything from me. The calmness of his voice shocked many of the instructors in the room. But the one in front of him with the scars just smiled. Then I guess it's the fun way, he said. Several in the room internally cringed for they knew what was about to happen. The scared interrogator began a series of hand seals and soon after he was finished Naruto could feel an assault on his mind. Naruto knew he was under an illusion that was made to break him within moments of its beginning. Inwardly Naruto was struggling to maintain his focus. Damn him, this guy could make darkness sweat. If that's even possible, that is. Outwardly Naruto kept his neutral face, and the only indication that he was exerting anything was the sweat forming on his head. This alone impressed many in the room, including the interrogator. It's been 10 minutes and he's only sweating, the scarred one thought. Either he really is the demon or his mental strength is extraordinary. The Hokage had similar thoughts to the interrogator and after 15 minutes he had seen enough. That's enough, Ibiki. The Junin turned to the Hokage, if he can last this long then he has proven enough for me. The others agreed, they knew that there were few in this room that could last as long as Naruto did. The manacles released and Naruto rubbed his wrists and neck. So what's next? He asked. A test of knowledge, Naruto, Iruka answered. As he brought out a test sheet and handed it to him. You'll have 2 hours to complete the test. Naruto looked down at the test and glanced around the room. Damn. Can't even cheat to get the answers. I'm the only one here taking the test and none of the instructors have anything or are saying anything. Naruto then began to answer the questions as best he could. After the 2 hours were up his test was collected. The instructors looked over his test and some began to snicker at some of his answers. Naruto even heard the Hokage say, his knowledge is only a little bit higher than when he was at the academy. This got Naruto angry for a minute and muttered, It's not like I could study out in the middle of nowhere. The Hokage caught this and smirked at the comment. Now we'll test your planning ability, the Hokage announced. He looked around the room. Where is he? The others looked around and shrugged, indicating they didn't know. Someone go get Shikamaru, the Hokage ordered. 5 minutes later the Chunin in question arrived. Why do I have to do this? Because you were ordered to. The one that went to retrieve him said. Fine, let's get this over with, Shikamaru said. He walked over to Naruto and asked, do you know how to shogi? Actually, yes, Naruto said. That was one of the games Darkness had him play to learn strategy. Shikamaru placed a shogi board on the desk and the two began to play. For the first few moves Shikamaru had a bored look on his face. But after about the 6th move he looked at the board, then at Naruto. He then became interested. You're no too bad. That was when the game became more active. Each player moving and taking pieces quickly, each having to readjust their moves to counter the other. Finally, after about 10 minutes Naruto stopped. Damn, I can't win, you'll get me in 7 moves. Shikamaru smiled. Actually 6, but you're pretty good, I'd like to play you again. Sure, why not? Naruto agreed, smiling as well. Well, that concludes this part of the exam, the Hokage said. He was impressed at Naruto's skill in strategy and tactics. Even he would have trouble against Shikamaru. We will now proceed to the stadium for the test and combat skills. Naruto smiled in anticipation. Good, cause this is what I've been waiting for. Once everyone had gathered at the stadium, Naruto was surprised to see the amount of people there. Although this was not open to the civilians, it was open to any shinobi that could attend. And by the looks of things, it appeared that nearly half the shinobi of all ranks in the village showed to watch the matches. Guess they're expecting a show, and they're about to get one. The referee for the matches turned out to be Hinata's cousin Neji. Naruto had met him the 3rd night after Naruto walked her home. Neji approached Naruto and said, now we'll see if you're worthy of Hinata-sama. Naruto just gave him a confident grin in response. The first match will be between Yuhi Kurenai and Uzumaki Naruto. As Neji announced this, a red-eyed mid-20-year-old woman entered the stadium. In the stands Sakura was watching with her Hinata, Sasuke and Rock Lee. This will be a good indication of how well Naruto does against illusions in combat. B should do well, Sasuke said. I heard some of the Junins saying he lasted 15 minutes against Ibuki. Yosh, I'm looking forward to facing him. Rock Lee said, pumping his fist. Back at the stadium, Naruto went into a defensive stance. He was not aware of the kind of jutsus Kurinya was capable of, so he decided to play it safe for now. The two fighters gazed at each other until Kurenai started to do a fast series of hand seals. Naruto prepared for anything. He then noticed an assault on his mind, genjutsu. Next thing Naruto knew, he was somehow encased in huge boulder with Kurenai sticking out above him. Naruto quickly analyzed the illusion. I can feel the stone and see it, but I can't hear her moving against it, nor can I smell the rock. That means it assaults the sense of touch and sight. Can't do much about the sense of touch, but I can at least take care of the sight. Naruto closed his eyes and take away one sense being assaulted. Now that's out of the way, it'll be easier to break the illusion. Naruto then began to perform what Darkness had taught him in order to break illusions. Kurinya watched as Naruto closed his eyes, so he knows that it assaults his eyes, but does he know about touch too? And will he be able to break the illusion without hand seals? Her question was answered as Naruto's body slowly began to glow green. The next thing anyone knew, the illusion was broken and Naruto was freed. Not bad, Naruto commented, but I've got to end this now. Naruto then disappeared from sight and reappeared behind Kurinya, jumped and kicked her in the head, knocking her out instantly. His speed is impressive, Sasuke commented. Yes, Rock agreed, he will be fun to fight. With that, the thick-browed Chunin jumped down to the just after the medics carried off Kurinya. Naruto gazed at his next opponent. He met him on the 4th day after he arrived, when he met up with Sakura. He had heard the stories of the Chunin that could not use genjutsu or ninjutsu and relied entirely on taijutsu. Naruto knew that although he had yet to take the Junin exam, Rock Lee is probably at Junin level. If it was any other Chunin besides you, I would feel insulted, Lee. Thank you for the compliment, Naruto-kun, Lee said, getting into his stance. Naruto only responded by dropped into his stance as well. His stance was unfamiliar to Lee, and that disturbed him because he thought he knew nearly all taijutsu stances. Up in the stands, two people were just as disturbed but for the opposite reason. Guy thought that stance seemed familiar. He remembered reading about a stance that was similar in a book he once read. What Guy could not place was the name of the taijutsu style or where it came from, but what he did remember was the book said that this was one of the strongest taijutsu styles there was. The other person that recognized the stance was the Hokage. No, he whispered, he couldn't know it. This has to be some variation, not the actual style. Did you want something, Hokage-sama? One of his attendants asked. What? Oh no, I'm fine, the Hokage responded, then thought, if it is that style then Naruto has progressed farther than I first thought. Back in the center of the stadium, Neji announced the match, Rock Lee vs Uzumaki Naruto. Lee wasted no time in charging in. His speed still amazed everyone in the stadium. But what amazed them more was the fact that Naruto was able to keep up. After a few exchanged blows, where Lee would use combinations of hands and feet, Naruto would almost entirely use his feet to hit back. Lee jumped back and thought, he's just as fast as I am. Across from him Naruto was thinking, he's fast, too fast, I can barely keep up. Well, Naruto-kun, Lee spoke up, I guess I'll have to go all out. With that he jumped a safe distance away and began to remove his weights. After tossing them aside and creating two good-sized craters, he began to jump up and down to get used to the change in weight. Naruto stood watching and smiled, then I guess I'll have to do the same, Lee. His statement confused everyone until Naruto take off his clothing only to reveal a second set underneath. Naruto took his clothes and threw them behind him, making a crater that rivaled the ones Lee made. Are you ready? Around the stadium those with Byakugan and Sharingans activated their eyes in anticipation of a high-speed match. Next to two of those people Sakura asked, do you think Lee-san will use Lotus against Naruto? In all reality I doubt it, Sasuke answered. Lotus requires the user to move fast enough to get through the opponent's guard. And if they have a similar amount of weight then their speed should be too close for it to be useful. The only way Lee could use Lotus were to use Extreme Lotus, and the Hokage specifically told him not to use it. Sakura nodded and turned back to watch the match. With her training under Guy she would be one of the few people to be able to keep up without a Byakugan or Sharingan. The two fighters charged each other at blinding speeds and met in the center. Those that could follow saw Naruto dive forward and sprung off his hands and kicked Lee in the gut. Lee flew back but was able to recover by performing a backflip and then punched Naruto as he came in close to score another kick. The punch connected and Naruto shot back, but he did a backhand spring and caught Lee under the chin with his foot. Lee quickly recovered and threw his own leg out and caught Naruto in the stomach. The two flew back and landed, now both with bruises on various parts of their body. After a brief moment to catch his breath, Lee charged in once again. This time he jumped in the air and called, Konoha Senpu, making his body begin to rotate, causing wind to form around his body. If you want to play it like that then take this, Naruto said and dove to his hands and called, Chainsaw. Naruto's body began to spin like Lee's, only it was faster, creating more force and knocking Lee back. Naruto came out of his technique and did not waste any time for Lee to recover. He called out, Sword, while performing a jump kick sending Lee into the wall. Deactivating his Byakugan, Neji said, Winner Uzumaki Naruto. Several around the stadium were wondering where he had learned such a powerful taijutsu style. Two others were wondering why they could not copy the techniques he used to finish off Lee. So he was telling the truth. Sasuke grinned, I can't copy them. And from what I saw he didn't even need hand seals to perform them. Whatever that is, it is very impressive. After Lee was carried off everyone was eagerly anticipating the final match. Sasuke was considered one of the strongest in the village and Naruto had just shown he was as well. Sasuke made his way down to the center. When he got there he said, feel free to take a breather. I want you at your best. Naruto smiled, thanks, Lee was better than I thought. I didn't think I would need to use any of my techniques until you. Everyone waited about 5 minutes until Naruto said, okay, I'm ready. Neji did not even have a chance to announce the start of the match before Sasuke performed his hand seals and called out, Kaden. Karyu Enden. A large dragon made of fire sped towards Naruto. Naruto brought his leg up and called out, Boomerang. A wave of chakra came off his foot and dispersed the flame dragon. As soon as his foot landed Naruto thrust both hands out calling, Hakken. a fist of wind came out and sped towards Susaki. With his Sharingan activated, Sasuke was fast enough to anticipate the attack and performed Doden Doryukehi. Mud came out of his mouth just in time to form a wall and block the attack. Unfortunately, because of that, Sasuke lost track of Naruto, who charged in, jumped and called, "Sword." Luckily, Sasuke was again quick enough to perform Kawarimi no Jutsu. Naruto only hit a log that Sasuke was able to replace his body with. After Naruto destroyed the log, he searched the area for Sasuke. Sensing him in a tree to his right, Naruto pulled his leg back and unleashed Boomerang. The wave of chakra moved toward the tree and cut it in half, but not before Sasuke escaped. These techniques are unbelievable, Sasuke thought. I guess I have no choice but to use it. Just as he landed, Sasuke said, "This has been fun, Naruto, but now I'll end it with a jutsu Kakashi taught me." Sasuke began the seals and called out, "Kachiyose no Jutsu." A large cloud of smoke formed, and when it cleared, there was large pure white dog larger than a good-sized building with Sasuke standing on it was revealed. Naruto was taken back by the sight. "What the hell happened?" he asked. "Kakashi taught me how to summon," Sasuke answered. "You've improved a lot, Naruto, but you can't win." "We'll see." Naruto dropped into another stance. This time he was leaning forward slightly, one hand at his waist, the other bent at elbow in front of him. He began to speak in a low voice that sounded like mumbling to even the two closest people to him. As he was speaking, a large amount of chakra began to explode from his body. Up next to the Hokage, one of his attendants asked, "Is he opening the gates?" "No," the Hokage answered. "He is doing something entirely different." His gaze never left the fight. He saw Naruto's muscles begin to flex and expand as the amount of chakra released continued to increase. On top of his summon, Sasuke was watching as Naruto increased in power, wondering if he knew how to open the 8 celestial gates as well. Soon the increase in chakra stopped and Naruto charged the summon. "Get out of the way," he ordered to the dog. The dog complied and jumped into the air. Naruto jumped as the dog did and knew he would miss with his attack, but because he knew he would be at a disadvantage if he pulled out now, so he continued the attack. Shouting, "Rapier!" Naruto's body seemed to become surrounded by rotating flames that center at his extended foot. Although he missed the summon with the brunt of the attack, he was able to clip and cause injury. When Sasuke and the summon landed, the dog said, "Sorry, but that guy got my leg, I can't fight anymore." The summon disappeared, leaving Sasuke alone. Naruto landed soon after, breathing heavily. He turned and saw Sasuke about to attack once again, so he prepared to continue also. The two fighters were stopped, however, when the third appeared in between them, saying, "This match is over. To continue would be a danger to both parties. I hereby call it a draw." The crowd was stunned by the display of the two fighters and the sudden end. After a brief period of silence, cheers went up for both participants. During the cheering, both dropped to the ground, still conscious but incredibly worn out. "Once you two recover, come to my office and we will discuss what happened." The Hokage did not wait for an answer and disappeared. Soon after he left, medics came and took both teenagers away. A few hours later, a group of several Junins and Chunins gathered in the Hokage's office. When the last ones, Naruto and Sasuke, arrived, the Hokage spoke. "First, I would like to say congratulations on the evaluation, Naruto. You have proven to have the skills needed to be at Junin level." "Thank you, Hokage-sama," Naruto responded. He felt that he should be formal because of the nature of the meeting. "Now tell me the name of your fighting style," the Hokage ordered. "Judging by your expression, you already know," Naruto replied. "But for clarification, it's called Karuda killing style, shadow skill." "I thought as much." The Hokage leaned back in his chair. "What's so special about this shadow skill?" a Junin asked. Naruto was about to answer, but the Hokage beat him to it. Shadow skill was a lost form of fighting from a civilization to the west of the shinobi countries. The Hokage explained. It was used by very few fighters in a city called Karuda. In this city, fighters competed for a title known as a savar. With their savars, Karuda had over 2,000 years of being undefeated in battle. The Hokage paused to let the information sink in. During the silence, a Chunin asked, "If they were so strong, what happened to them?" "I'll answer that," Naruto said. "My teacher Darkness told me that a natural disaster destroying Karuda, forcing all its citizens to leave. He also told me that many of the jutsu principles the shinobi use can trace their origin to Garuda and its neighboring kingdoms. And who is Darkness? Another Junin asked. Darkness is a being from another world that has been alive since before the fall of Garuda, the Hokage answered. He would be the only person that could have taught Naruto shadow skill. How did you know that? Naruto asks. The first Hokage once told me he met a being named Darkness, the Hokage answered. Darkness told him about his history and the first told me. Now Naruto, I have a question, have you mastered shadow skill? I know all the techniques, but I haven't been able to master all them yet. Then what name does Darkness call you? The Hokage asked. Ever since I performed the last technique he has been calling me, Shadow Claw, Naruto answered. The Hokage sat in his office contemplating what just transpired less than an hour ago. Naruto has become the inheritor of shadow skill, he thought. If the legends about its strength are true, then Naruto will become the strongest person in the village within the next few years. He sighed and lit his pipe, and judging by the power he displayed earlier, he may be at Kakashi's level, maybe even higher. But the question is what to do with him now. He stood up and went to his window to gaze at the stone faces. He is now a Junin, but I doubt he is ready and willing to take on a Genin team yet. One part of the test we did not cover was how well he would do on a team. If his ability to work in a unit has increased like that of his other skills, then he may make a good Anbu. But if that is the case, who to put him with? I'm sure Sasuke would be willing to take him as part of him team, but that may not be the best for either of them. Naruto needs to reintegrate with others, and just being around people he was already close to would not help very much. He returned to his desk to finish his paperwork. I will send him out on a couple of missions with other Junin first and go from there. The Hokage went back to work. Just a deep voice from his widow said, I see the only thing you still do around here is paperwork, sensei. The Hokage turned to the window and saw a large man with long spiky white hair. Hello Jiraiya. I haven't seen you in about a year or so. What brings you here? Well, first, Jiraiya reaches into his clothes and pulls out a book. I've just completed my latest book and I came to give a special edition to my two best readers. He hands the book to the Hokage, who is blushing but still takes it anyway. And second, I have some information about our old friend. The Hokage quietly puts the book into his robes, and what is he up to? Jiraiya moves and sits across the Hokage. According to my sources, he wants you in a grave and plans to put you there himself. Then we should expect an attack soon? The Hokage asked. Not just yet, Jiraiya answers, but it would be wise to begin preparations. How long before he comes? Not for a couple of months, Jiraiya answered. You're high on his list of priorities but not at the top. He stood up about to leave when the Hokage's voice stopped him. Before you leave, I think you should know, the Hokage said, he's still alive and back in the village. Jiraiya paused, turned and nodded. I need to give Kakashi his copy. When I get back we'll talk. You'll find them both at Ichiruka having a celebration, the Hokage said as Jiraiya left. Not far away, Naruto was indeed celebrating his recent promotion to Junin level. The people there were his friends, Rock Lee, Shikamaru and Konohamaru, and his friends just back from a Genin mission from outside the village. Konohamaru and his friends had heard about Naruto being alive the moment they walked into the village just a half hour ago and came straight here. When they saw him they nearly broke into tears, hoping that their leader was not just some figment of their imagination. After several minutes of several people convincing them he was not just their imagination, they soon joined in the celebration. So Konohamaru, you still being taught by that closet pervert? Naruto asked in between mouthfuls of ramen. Ebisu-sensei is still teaching us, Konohamaru said. And we're sorry we didn't. Don't worry about it, Naruto said, knowing what Konohamaru was about to say. So Naruto, Kakashi said behind his book, are you going to tell us why you're called Shadow Claw? Everybody turned to Naruto in anticipation. Ever since the Hokage questioned him about his new title, they became very curious. Well, there's not too much a reason behind it really, Naruto began. Darkness said that the warriors of Garuda would be named for aspects that were unique to them. For me it was the fact that I mastered shadow skill and, he paused and held up his hands showing his claws, my claws. There was silence for a moment. The Konohamaru shouted, that's it? Hey, Kakashi-sensei got his name because he only copies others' techniques with his Sharingan. Naruto countered. Speaking of which, Sasuke jumps in, why couldn't the Sharingan copy the techniques? The way it was explained to me, Naruto answered, was that unlike doing hand seal that required chakra to be molded outside the body for jutsus, the techniques of shadow skill require the molding of chakra inside the body. I did see an unusual pattern in your chakra when you were fighting Naruto-kun, Hinata added. And it requires the specific training darkness gave me to learn to mold the chakra the proper way, Naruto continued. So what was the training like and could you teach me shadow skill Naruto-kun? Rock Lee asked. Sorry Lee, Naruto replied, but there can only be one master and one apprentice in shadow skill. Darkness made me promise only to teach it to one person and not to choose lightly. Everyone understood that once Naruto made a promise nothing in this world would get him to break it. But the training. 3 months after the darkness brought Naruto to the fallen city of Karuta, he began instructing him in shadow skill. The basic foundation of the style is to fight using primarily your feet. And for this Naruto was forced to develop his legs first. To accomplish this darkness made him wear extremely heavy weights on his legs and did several exercises that would build his leg muscles. His morning workout would consist of running around the city 10 times and instead of going around any debris that littered the ground, he was told to go over it by either jumping or walking up it. Then once his run was done he would do several kicks alternating each leg while standing on a 5-meter tall pole that was no wider than his foot to also improve his balance. Once that was done he would do near countless squats. After he was done with his morning workout he would work on the technique that darkness had showed him for 3 hours. And in the late afternoon and early evening Naruto would work on his upper body. He needed a strong overall body to perform the techniques properly. But the exercises in the evening were geared more towards flexibility rather than strength. Finally when those exercises were finished darkness would train his mind with advanced illusions and games of strategy and tactics. Currently Naruto was practicing one of the lower level techniques of shadow skill. He had the basic principle down but was still having problems refining it so it had the proper power. Naruto was attempting to destroy a boulder 3 times his size in one shot. So far all he was able to do was cause chips to break off. Damn, what am I missing? Naruto asked to no one in particular. You need to release the chakra just as your foot is fully extended, Darkness answered. Naruto jumped back about a meter. Darkness had a bad habit of showing up out of nowhere rather often. And even though Naruto's senses had increased because of Kyuubi he still could not feel his approach. Alright give me some room, Naruto said. Darkness moved back about 2 meters. Naruto then charged the boulder, jumped and extended his foot. Just as he was about to hit the rock he fully extended his leg and called out, "Sword." In a blinding flash Naruto obliterated the boulder. Alright, Naruto cheered and he began to jump up and down in celebration at his accomplishment. Darkness silently walked up to Naruto and said, "You will now require an increase in weight and an increase in your flexibility training." What? Naruto stopped abruptly, but why? The next technique requires more speed and higher flexibility, Darkness answered. He then raised his hands and the weights on Naruto's legs began to glow. Naruto could feel the weight increase and said, "This feels a lot heavier." "It is at least twice your old weight," Darkness informed. "Now begin stretching against the wall." Naruto obeyed and slowly made his way to a wall about 10 meters away. Once he was there he tried to lift his leg and had trouble. "I can barely lift my legs now." "Use chakra to increase your strength," Darkness instructed. I know, Naruto said forcing chakra into his legs. He then lifted his leg and placed it against the wall. Once he had his balance corrected he hopped on his support leg towards the wall forcing his stretching leg higher up the wall. When it was nearly vertical and parallel to his body he asked, "How long do I have to hold this for?" 2 hours. Then switch legs. Naruto grumbled but continued this on into the evening. And that was only the beginning of the training, Naruto said. With every technique I learned darkness would make my training schedule even tougher. If I didn't heal and recover so quickly I would have probably died even with his healing talismans. Everyone at the ramen stand, his friends and others that were simply listening in, thought the same thing. That kind of schedule could give Lise a run. After about 5 minutes of silence Hinata asked, "By why does it use feet primarily?" "Because of slaves," Naruto answered. "Slaves?" several people asked. "Yeah," Naruto began to explain. Shadow skill originated from female slaves that were forced to do some rather degrading things. Everything from killing to torture to even rape. Everyone became silent after what Naruto said. Not waiting for a response, he continued, because the slaves had their hands bound and lacked the physical strength to fight back, that had to rely on their feet and limber bodies. Darkness said that it was the most feared of all Kuruda killing styles because its entire basis was to free and restore the dignity of the female slaves. Now that I think about it, Sasuke spoke up, when I fought you yesterday I did take notice you seemed to keep your hands close together like they were bond or something. Sounds like Naruto would have an advantage over most shinobi in that case, Shikamaru said. What do you mean? Moegi asked. Well, except for taijutsu, all jutsus shinobi use require hand seals, Shikamaru explained. From what Naruto just told us, the entire basis for shadow skill is to have your hands bound. That means a regular ninja that gets their hands bound would become pretty useless, but for Naruto it would not matter in any way. The three genins at the stand thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. While Shikamaru was explaining, Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke and Hinata glanced to the side, focusing on someone that just arrived. The younger shinobi turned to Kakashi and he just waved them off. They turned back just as Shikamaru was finished explaining, and Kakashi stood up. Well, I should be heading out, he announced. I have to go meet someone. He again glanced outside. The four looked at him again, but he just waved them off again. I'll see you later. After Kakashi left, he walked up with Jiraiya asking, when will your latest book come out? Jiraiya gave him a grin and produced Kakashi's volume. Here, enjoy. He glanced back to the ramen stand. So he is still alive. From behind his new book, Kakashi answered, yes, and it appears that he is already stronger than many Junin. I'm glad to see he's alive, Jiraiya said, walking away. Is what I overheard true? You would have to ask the third to know just how strong shadow skill is, Kakashi said. But from what he has described of his training and what I witnessed, it is incredibly powerful. Good, Jiraiya commented, Konoha will need strong shinobi in the near future. With that he disappeared, leaving Kakashi to enjoy his book. The next day Naruto found himself alone wandering the village. The others had their last day off yesterday and went back to their duties. Naruto had yet to be assigned anywhere. He figured that they honestly did not know what to do with him yet. So he decided to take a walk around the village. Word spread rapidly about his evaluation and the citizens seemed to be avoiding him. It made Naruto remember when he was a child, when everyone would take their children away whenever he showed up. The only difference this time was that instead of giving him hateful looks, they were giving him fearful ones. I'm not sure which is worse, being hated and avoided or being feared and avoided, Naruto thought. He continued his walk until he came to Training Area 7. Once he noticed where he was, he slowly approached the memorial stone and saw his name written on it. When he got close enough, he noticed that there were signs of his name having to be polished and repolished over and over again. I guess some people thought I didn't deserve to be on here, he thought out loud. He then laughed, in a way I guess they were right. He abruptly stood up and called out, I don't like to be spied on. If you want to say something, then say it. A figure came out from behind a tree and slowly approached. When Naruto turned, he saw it was a girl about Konohamaru's age come out. She had the same eyes as Hinata. In fact, she looked a lot like Hinata from when he was at the academy, except the girl before him has longer hair. You're my sister's boyfriend, right? Boyfriend? Naruto asked. And who's your sister? Although he had a very good idea whom this was. Hinata, the girl snapped. Hanabi, right? Naruto asked. Hinata-chan told me a lot about you. The girl nodded, then asked, well, are you? I don't know, Naruto answered. That was not an answer she had expected. Hanabi had thought that he would either say yes or maybe deny being her sister's boyfriend. What do you mean you don't know? She spoke with anger. Just like it sounds, I don't know, Naruto said in an irritated voice. I've only been back for a few days and I'm still getting to know her. Well then, do you at least think she's cute? Hanabi asked. Naruto blushed for a minute and was about to answer, but a voice stopped him. Hanabi, where are you? A middle-aged man with long black hair and white eyes came into the clearing. Ah, there you are. Your Junin sensei is looking for you. The man looked a bit irritated but spoke in a calm voice. I'm sorry, father, Hanabi bowed. I was just talking to him. She pointed at Naruto. Hiyashi turned to Naruto with an unreadable expression and turned back to Hanabi. Your sensei should not have to notify me to find you. Yes, father, Hanabi bowed once again. Good day, father. She then left the area, but not before looking at Naruto once again. After she left, Hiyashi turned back to Naruto and stared for a moment before turning to leave. "Good day, Hyuga-sama," Naruto said as he left. Hiyashi paused, turned a bit and said, "Good day, Uzumaki-san." After he left, Naruto fell back. That was intense. He then thought about the two Hyugas. Wasn't exactly what I expected Hinata's father to be like that. Then again, the Neji is, and the fact that Hinata-chan's father trained him, I shouldn't be surprised. Naruto decided to continue his walk after the encounter with Hinata's sister and father. He was walking by the bathhouses when he heard a familiar laugh coming from nearby. It was not familiar in the voice but in the tone being used. It was the same perverted giggle that Kakashi used when he was reading his Icha Icha books. Following the giggles, Naruto soon came upon a slightly elderly man peeking through a hole in the fence. "Just what do you think you're doing?" Naruto said with unbidden hostility in his voice. The man turned around and once Naruto saw his face a frown formed. "You're that geezer pervert that gave Kakashi-sensei his book yesterday." "Hey, don't call me a geezer," Jiraiya shouted. He then covered mouth real quickly and frantically turned his head, making sure no one saw him. "If you know about my books, then you should know I need inspiration to write them." Without another word, he turned back around and peeked back through the hole. Naruto was now extremely angry. He never really liked perverts, only liked to embarrass them in front of others. He liked them even less as he grew older, and now here was one being blatantly obvious about it in front of him. He moved forward about to deck the man when a puff of smoke appeared in between the two. "Jiraiya-sama," an Anbu spoke. "The Hokage wishes your presence immediately." He then turned to Naruto, and he requests your presence as well. Naruto nodded and the Anbu vanished. When he turned back around to again try and deck Jiraiya, he found he was already gone. The third sat in his office with several Junin and a few Anbu waiting for the last two people to show up so he could start the meeting. After his talk with Jiraiya yesterday, he decided to take action in preparing for a possible attack within the next couple of months. The first to arrive was his old student, and the last, Naruto, was not far behind him. Once they arrived and took their places, he began. "According to recent information provided by Jiraiya, we have learned that there are negotiations going on between Cloud and Stone. We have not had the best relationship with either county in the past, so the negotiations could lead to a security risk for the village. Because of that, I am sending a team to investigate potential threats and to see if the rumors about a third party involved are correct. The team will consist of Genma, Kurenai and Aoba. You will leave once I give you the information after the meeting." "Yes, Hokage-sama," the three said together. "And because of the possible threats, I am canceling any rookie Genin team missions that will occur outside the village," the third said. The various Junin instructors nodded. "Next, we will be increasing Anbu patrols outside the village and increase the presence of Junins that are not assigned to any teams." The two groups nodded in confirmation. "That is all, except for Naruto and Jiraiya. The rest of you pass on the orders." The Hokage then gave a scroll to Genma saying, "Here is all the information you will need." Once everyone was out, Naruto asked, "So why did you want us to stay?" The third was about to answer when a knock came from the door. Hinata entered saying, "You wished to see me, Hokage-sama?" "Ah yes, I have called you here because you will be joining these two on their mission," the Hokage said. "Wait a minute, what mission?" Naruto asked. "The mission I had you stay behind to give you," the third answered. "This will be an A-rank mission that could take some time. I am sending you on a mission to search for someone and bring her back to the village." "Okay," Naruto said, "if it's a rank that injuries are expect, that explains Hinata, being a medic and all. But what about him?" Naruto asked, turning to Jiraiya, who was staring at Hinata with some drool coming out of his mouth. When Naruto saw this, his fist clenched in anger. "Jiraiya is the only one that seems to be able to find her," the Hokage answered. Taking his gaze off Hinata, Jiraiya asked, "What makes you think I know where she is?" The third pulled out his latest Icha Icha book, causing Naruto to clench his fist more and Hinata to blush, and said, "In your latest volume you mentioned, an angry she-demon with monstrous strength interrupted the hero's pursuit." The Hokage put the book away, "And since you only write about inspiration that happened recently, that implies that you have seen her not too long ago." "Alright," Jiraiya said, "but I'm only doing this because you gave me exclusive privilege to research my next volume without being arrested." That statement had both younger ninjas turn red in embarrassment and anger. "You will leave in an hour," the Hokage ordered, calling an end to the meeting. Meet me at the main entrance, Jiraiya said. He was about to leave when he felt a tug on his shirt. When Jiraiya turned around, Naruto let go of his shirt and grabbed his neck. If you peek at Hinata-chan just once, Naruto said in dead cold voice, I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life breathing through a tube. Naruto then let go of him and went to join Hinata, who left before the other two. It was 4 days since the Hokage had made the new set of orders regarding the security of the village. And true to his word, no rookie genin team was permitted outside the village gates. In fact, very seldom was any genin seen outside the gates. The junins that were not assigned a genin team became more visible, and this lightened some of the anxiety of the village. With the junins around, people felt safe because having such high-ranked shinobi around meant that very few people could get into the village unnoticed. In truth, the time only the villagers were on edge was when they saw an increase of visible shinobi was when it came to the Anbu. When the Anbu patrols became noticeable, it always made the citizens nervous. For 2 reasons. First, even the civilians of the village knew that the Anbu were often given the more undesirable duties of the ninja community. Second, if an increase in Anbu were spotted, it meant that there were less higher-level ninjas to guard the village, and the Anbu were forced to fill those spots. Fortunately, this had not come to pass. The information that Jiraiya had brought gave Konoha an advanced warning to the possible threats from the alliance between Stone and Cloud. Currently, an Anbu captain was meeting with his former genin team leader for a talk. How long do you think it will take the Junin team to get any information back? Sasuke asked. Kakashi closed his exposed eye and thought, considering that they will be traveling to Cloud, I would say it wouldn't take that long to get there. He paused and thought some more, but considering that this requires covert surveillance to get the information necessary, it could take a while. Why are they heading to Cloud? Sasuke asked. Because although Cloud and Stone are relatively equal distance to Konoha, Cloud is still a peninsula, Kakashi said. It is better to hold the meeting there. Because of the few safe ports from the rough coastlines and one way by land, it's easier to guard against spies, Sasuke concluded. Right, Kakashi stated, believe me, I've been to Cloud a couple of times. Much of the coastline is hazardous even for experienced shinobi. How long are you off until your next mission? Sasuke asked, changing the subject somewhat. I've been given a couple of days off, Kakashi answered. Hokage-sama has the rotation pretty well planned out. I think the next ones in line are Sakura and Guy. In fact, here she comes. Hello Sasuke-kun. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura greeted. How are things going? I've been caught up in my patrols, Sasuke answered. Speaking of which, I should go meet up with my team. And with that he left the other two. I'm just getting into my new book Jiraiya-sama gave me, Kakashi said with a blush. If Sakura were not used to her perverted teacher, she would smack him for that comment. Well, just remember our deal, Sakura said. Don't read those books around me, and I won't tell Hokage-sama that you took his last book. Kakashi nodded, slightly nervous. So far the deal had worked out, but it was hard to put down the latest volume. Well, anyway, I should go meet up with Guy and get started on my next mission. As soon as Sakura was out of sight, Kakashi took out his book. Finally, now I can see what happens next after the shower scene. A little over 5 days travel. For a non-shinobi, 3 people were setting up camp for the night. So how are we supposed to find this, Tsunade? Naruto asked. We'll ask around at some of the local gambling houses, Jiraiya answered. Why gambling houses? Naruto asked, confused. I thought she was a medic. She is Naruto-kun, Hinata answered, but Tsunade is reported to have a bit of a gambling problem. Not to mention being very bad at it, Jiraiya answered. Let me guess your plan is for us to pose as debt collectors, Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded in confirmation. But Hinata-chan, how do you know about her gambling problem? Well, anyone who wants to be a medic learns about Tsunade, Hinata answers. And from my studies I heard about her nickname. What's her nickname? Asked a curious Naruto. It's the legendary sucker, Jiraiya answered with a grin. After a few moments of silence, Hinata stood up, causing Naruto to ask, Where are you going, Hinata-chan? Hinata blushed for a moment. I was just going for a walk too. As she talked, her face became increasingly red. Naruto caught on to what she was trying to say and blushed in embarrassment. Oh well, don't wander off too far. As she left, Jiraiya followed her path with his head and was about to mention someone should keep an eye on her. But the ice-cold stare he felt from behind him, where Naruto was, made him remember the threat he gave him before the group left. Deciding it would be best to side on caution for once when it came to his pervertedness, Jiraiya did not mention it. Instead he asked, "How should we do the watch?" Naruto, still with his icy stare, replied, "I should take the late watch. I can see better in the dark than either of you." "How's that?" Jiraiya asked. "My eyes are more photosensitive than a normal person's," Naruto said, pointing to his slitted eyes. "And I can increase my night vision even more with chakra. Having sensitive eyes like that can be a great weakness as well as strength," Jiraiya cautioned. "Believe me, I know," Naruto said, shaking his head. "When I first got them one night when I was away, I had not realized until I woke up the next day how sensitive they truly were. Almost blinded myself when I woke up, but I've learned to adjust to the extra sensitivity even when I enhance then even more." "Well then, you taking the latest shift is fine with me," Jiraiya said. "Then I'll take the middle and Hinata will take the first." "Alright, we'll tell her when she gets back," Naruto said. About 10 minutes later, Hinata arrived and was informed of the watch rotation. She agreed and the three settled in for the night. It was about 2 hours before the first rays of sunrise would reach the group. Naruto was in the middle of his turn at watch when he heard some commotion not far off. Slowly reaching over, he shook Hinata awake, who had fallen asleep right next to him. When she opened her eyes, Naruto made a gesture for her to remain still. She complied and then he scratched by his eyes after giving her the briefest of glances. Hinata understood the gesture and silently activated her blood limit where she lay. After scanning the area, she moved fingers a few times, telling Naruto how many there were. After a few minutes of silence, Naruto heard some rustling again. This time it was less than 5 meters away from the campsite. "Wake up, Arrow Sennin," Naruto said. "We got company." Naruto stood up just as Jiraiya awoke. "How many?" Jiraiya asked. "I counted at least 6, Hinata said, standing herself. As the three traveling companions took a defensive position, 6 figures emerged from the bushes and trees. "Who are you and what do you want?" Naruto asked. The 6 opponents gave no response except for attacking by throwing several kunai and shuriken. The 3 easily dodged and spilled off to attack. Naruto disappeared from sight, then reappeared behind one of the enemies and kicked him, sending the enemy into a nearby tree. Hinata once again activated her blood limit and quickly struck one closest to her with a combination chakra scalpel and gentle fist, rendering one arm and leg of her opponent completely useless. Jiraiya had summoned a toad as large as him, and the toad used its tongue to knock his opponents away. Both the injured and non-injured of the 6 attackers moved back with varying degrees of ease. "You can't win," Naruto said. "Give up." Again there came no response from the enemies, except this time, in addition to taking out more weapons, strange black marks began to appear on their skin. "Kill them quickly," Jiraiya ordered. As the marks continued to expand, Naruto and Hinata heard Jiraiya's order and wondered why he said that. Their silent question was answered when they felt a sudden upsurge of chakra from the opponents. Not wasting any more time, Naruto and Hinata charged their previous opponents. Naruto jumped into the air, spun and kicked the one he previously injured in the neck, killing him instantly. The other was able to jump away, but as soon as Naruto landed, he quickly threw out his hands, shouting, "Hakken!" A burst of wind came out of his hands, hitting his last opponent before he could finish his hand seals. Naruto, capitalizing on his advantage, decided to end this now and followed up with rapier. The powerful technique killed the enemy before he knew what hit him. Hinata charged just as Naruto did, but instead of going after the weakened opponent, she went for the stronger one. She felt that with the injuries she gave the other one, he would not be of much help. Hinata quickly moved in, striking several chakra points as well as cutting vital organs with her chakra scalpels. She quickly rendered him unconscious and barely alive. Luckily for her, she had her blood limit activated, otherwise she would have been struck by several shurikens in the back. Jumping to avoid the attack, Hinata quickly scanned the direction they came from. To her surprise, she noticed that the injured opponent now had a different chakra pattern than before. The brief pause was enough time for the attacker to charge her. "Unfortunately for him," Hinata said, "you have just entered my range of deviation." She then rushed forward, performing Hake Rokuju Yanshuo. She quickly struck the 64 chakra points, killing the enemy. Jiraiya, not having hesitated, jumped off his frog and quickly killed the uninjured attacker before the marks could fully spread. At the same time, his toad attacked the injured opponent and killed him quickly as well. After the battle, Naruto asked, "Who the hell were they? And what the hell were those marks?" "Their forehead protector shows they're from Hidden Sound," Hinata said, examining one of the bodies. She looked back up to Naruto and continued, "Hidden Sound in a new shinobi village that showed up not long after you left. But as to the marks, they're curse seals," Jiraiya answered. "But unlike the ones on the branch house of the Hyuga, these don't lessen the person's ability, they increase it." "Then why are they curse seals?" Hinata asked. "Because most people don't survive if the seal gets planted on them," Jiraiya replied. "That and if the person is unwilling to fight it, they lose their mind to the seal." "How do you know so much about them?" Naruto asked. "I'll tell you later," Jiraiya responded. "But right now we need to break camp and hurry up and find Tsunade." 3 days later, in a darkened chamber, a man wearing glasses slowly approached another man with yellow eyes. "Orochimaru-sama," Kabuto greeted. "The team that was sent to follow Jiraiya and his 2 companions was found killed." "Those fools," Orochimaru said, "they should not have tried to attack my old teammate." "Orochimaru-sama," Kabuto spoke again, "whom will you send after Jiraiya? If he contacts Tsunade and convinces her to rejoin Konoha, I am aware what will happen." Kabuto, Orochimaru said angrily. "Is there any word on whom is accompanying Jiraiya?" "Our spies tell us that the girl is the Hyuga heiress," Kabuto informed, "and the boy is someone that goes by the name of Shadow Claw. Our spies also tell us that this Shadow Claw fights in an unknown fighting style and it is quite powerful." Orochimaru thought for a minute. "Send the Sound 4, he ordered. "Tell them to watch and wait. I wish to know more about this unknown fighting style, and maybe get an opportunity to get the Byakugan." "Yes, Orochimaru-sama," Kabuto bowed, then left. Naruto, Jiraiya and Hinata had been traveling for a week and a half, straight at their best speed, only stopping for quick episodes of rest. After the attack from the Sound Shinobi, Jiraiya insisted that they get as far away as possible from their previous location. They were now near the western boundaries of Fire Country and they decided to once again continue their search for Tsunade. There were several towns around their location, but only a few had any gambling. The group had decided to concentrate their search solely to the gambling city in hopes of hearing recent stories of a woman with severe bad luck. So far they had come up with nothing. "You know, I'm beginning to think that Tsunade might have just gone underground," Naruto said, brushing his hair out of his eyes. He was not wearing his forehead protector, so his hair fell down over his eyes. Jiraiya had suggested removing their forehead protectors in order to blend in around the villages without using chakra that could be detected. "From the way you describe her debts, it would be the smartest thing she could do." "For a normal person, yes," Jiraiya replied, "but with Tsunade, she just can't resist gambling." "Well, if we do not find any information from the next town," Hinata joined in, "where will we go from there?" "We'll have to leave the country and search some of the smaller countries," Jiraiya said. "Fortunately, Tsunade doesn't travel much in other shinobi countries." "Why is that?" Naruto asked. "Because regardless of the reasons why she left, she will not give up any secrets to another country," Jiraiya explained. Both Hinata and Naruto nodded in understanding. Both knew from their own experiences what it meant to keep secrets about techniques to themselves. It did not take them much longer to reach the next village. This one was about medium-sized and was pretty much designated as a tourist town. That meant that there were quite a number of gambling houses that would appeal to Tsunade as well as other methods of distraction that would appeal to Jiraiya. After looking around for a minute and noticing several said distractions, Jiraiya announced, "Why don't you two head to a hotel and book us a couple of rooms? I'll start searching for information." Though he did not specify what kind of information, the slight drool on at the corner of his mouth told his companions everything they needed to know. "Just don't spend any of our money, you pervert," Naruto said after the retreating Jiraiya. Sighing, he turned to Hinata, "We should probably check into an inexpensive hotel then search ourselves." "Okay, Naruto-kun," Hinata agreed. "I think the best place would probably be at the north side of the village. It's away from the major tourist spots, so the rates should lower." "That sounds good, Hinata-chan," Naruto said. After searching for a half an hour, they found one they could afford. As they approached the front desk, the elderly manager greeted, "Hello there, what a lovely couple you are. Would you like a room to rent?" Both Hinata and Naruto blushed slightly. "Yes, we would like to stay here, but we would like 2 rooms please." "Oh," the manager said, then leaned over the counter and whispered to Naruto, "You haven't reached that point yet?" Although the manager whispered, Hinata was still able to hear him. I'm sorry sir, but we would like 2 rooms because we are traveling with a third person. She was cut off the manager. Oh, I see you two want some privacy, I understand. Here are your room keys. Your rooms will be across the hall from each other on the 2nd floor. First door on your right has the larger bed. Both blushed at the misinterpretation even more, but when they tried to correct him, the manager would just disregard them. So the two did not press and went to their rooms. Once they unpacked, the two met outside, pointedly avoiding the manager, to start checking some of the gambling houses. After they checked out the 3rd gambling house and still had no luck, Naruto and Hinata decided to take a break. After traveling for 2 days non-stop to even catch their breath and spending half the day searching, the two began to feel fatigue setting in. The 2 teenagers decided to get something to eat and then relax for a couple of hours. They figured by that time their older companion would have either run out of money or just been run out of wherever he was and then go search for him. During one of the few moments that Hinata left Naruto alone, he noticed he was next to a rather small gambling house. There was an open slot machine next to the entrance, and yielding to his curiosity, Naruto placed a coin into the machine and to his surprise he won. Hinata had come back to the spot where she left Naruto not too long ago. She looked around trying to locate him, but because they were in the busier part of the town, she could not see him through the crowd. After several minutes of looking and not finding any trace of Naruto, she decided to search a different way. Silently activating her blood limit, Hinata quickly picked up a strongly suppressed chakra signature not too far from where she was. Deactivating her blood limit, Hinata went toward the signature, and when she arrived she was surprised to see that it was not Naruto that she sensed. In fact, it was a woman carrying a small pig. The woman seemed to notice someone was looking at her and turned towards Hinata. When their eyes met, the woman became startled, saying, "A Hyuga." Back at Naruto, he was on his 10th game on the slot machine. And although he lost 7 of those games, the 3 he won had been jackpots. So his pile of coins had become rather high. Naruto was about to stick another coin in when he felt someone watching him from behind. He turned back to see a well-endowed woman first looking at his pile of money, then at him. "It seems you've got pretty good luck, kid. Want to try a real game with me?" After glancing around the area for a moment, Naruto shrugged. "I guess a quick game won't hurt." With that, he took the winnings from the slot machine and followed the well-endowed woman further back into the gambling house. "Oh, I see," the woman carrying the pig, now known as Shizune, said. "So you're on a mission?" "Yes," Hinata answered. She kept the details to herself because, although Shizune claimed to be from Konoha, Hinata was not sure if she was telling the truth. And after the attack from the sound ninjas, it was better to side with caution. "Well, I'm sure tease." Shizune was cut off by a large amount of commotion coming from down the street. Looking in the direction Shizune noticed that the disturbance came from a gambling house. She sighed, "Not again," and ran off in the same direction. Hinata was confused for a moment but decided to follow to see what had happened. When the two arrived at the gambling house, they heard a shout from within, "I know you two are cheating. The only hands you've lost are to each other." "How could we be cheating?" a female voice shouted back. "I just met this kid 10 minutes ago." "Yeah," a male voice agreed. "Just because you suck doesn't mean the others are cheating." "Oh no," Shizune said as she recognized the female voice. Hinata had similar thoughts as she recognized the male voice. Back inside, the conflict began to escalate. "Give me back my money and there won't be any trouble," the man who had lost the last 3 hands said. "Hey, you lost fair and square," Naruto retorted. "And if you don't want to lose more than just your money, I suggest you leave." "I agree with my new friend here," Tsunade said. "I've lost my fair share of hands in the past, but I never accused a person of cheating whom wasn't. You're just being a sore loser." "Do you have any idea who I am?" the man asked. "Not really, should I?" Naruto asked with a smirk. "That's it." The man pulled out a short sword from his back and along with 3 other people that were watching from close by attacked. Naruto gazed at the attackers and knew they were no threat, so he let them come. 2 attacked him while the other 2 attacked the woman to his right. The 2 attacking Naruto both swung their swords down at Naruto, and to their surprise Naruto brought his forearm up and blocked the attack. Thanks in part to the weights on his arm but mostly because of his strength, he not only stopped the blades, they also broke on his arm. Sighing, Naruto said, "Such low-quality weapons." Then looking up, he saw the horror-stricken looks on the 2 men's faces. Taking a deep breath, Naruto yelled, "Boo!" The two men jumped back and quickly ran out the exit. Naruto turned to the woman and saw she was holding her two attackers in one hand by their shirts and a sake bottle in the other. She then crushed the sake bottle and said, "If you come near me again you'll end up just like the sake bottle." With that she threw the two men out the entrance. "Well, that was fun, so what's your name, kid?" "Uzumaki Naruto," Naruto said with a big smile. "What's yours?" Tsunade seemed to flinch at the smile briefly, but the shock quickly left. She answered, but she was interrupted by a voice from the entrance. "Tsunade-sama." Naruto turned to the source of the voice and noticed Hinata was standing next to a woman holding a pig. He then caught what the woman next to Hinata said, "Wait, you're Tsunade?" Tsunade turned away from Shizune and the Hyuga with her to the teenager next to her and responded, "Yeah, have we met?" After the rather eventful meeting, the four shinobi and pig left the gambling house. They made their way to a bar close by to discuss why Naruto and Hinata were there. After they were seated, Tsunade began to drink sake. She figured with two Konoha shinobi she would need a drink. Her first question was, "So where is your third member?" Konoha shinobi usually travel in groups of 3 or 4. "We're not sure where our third member is," Naruto said. "But that old pervert is probably at some bathhouse trying to get a glimpse of some girls." "Old pervert?" Tsunade questioned. "Don't tell me he sent Jiraiya with you kids." "Hokage-sama did." "Tsunade-sama," Hinata answered. Tsunade sighed. "So I'm assuming that you are here to try and convince me to head back, right?" She received a nod from the two young shinobi. "Well, you can forget it. I'm not going back." Naruto was about to retort when a loud smack was heard from across the room. He turned to see a very angry-looking young woman walking away from a white-haired man with a large red welt on his face. "Doesn't that geezer have any self-control?" Tsunade looked in the same direction as Naruto and said, "Not for as long as I've known him." At this point Jiraiya was rubbing his face when he saw his companions as well as his former teammate sitting at the same table. Making his way over to them, he could not help but comment, "Naruto, I knew you had in you to get with more than one lady, but I never thought Tsunade would go for someone your age." The response he got was total blackout. After a few minutes Jiraiya woke back up only to find Tsunade and Shizune there with him. "What happened to Naruto and Hinata?" "Hinata started to look rather tired," Shizune answered. "And Naruto took her back to the hotel they checked into. Naruto said that it's at the other end of town and that yours and his room are on the left just up the stairs. He also said his threat still stands," Tsunade added. She saw a slight shiver run down Jiraiya's spine and smiled. She had to admit that except for the fact that Naruto was from Konoha and was here to bring her back, she kind of liked him. Especially since she seemed to win at gambling when he was around. Her time with Naruto just a short while ago was first time she won at all in a long time. "So sensei wants me back," Tsunade said, getting back to the reason Jiraiya was there. "Yeah," he answered. "There's trouble coming and he wants you there to help." "I have to give the old man credit," Tsunade smirked. "I always said that the Hyuga with their blood limit would make good medics, and so he sends one to find me to make me feel all nostalgic." "Well, it won't work, I'm still not coming back." "That was one of his reasons for sending her." "Yes," Jiraiya commented. "But his real reason was to make sure Naruto comes back." Intrigued, Tsunade asked, "What's so special about him?" Jiraiya faced her with a serious expression. "He's the Fourth's legacy." "You mean he's?" Tsunade asked, surprised. Jiraiya nodded in confirmation. "I thought he died 2 years ago." "That's what everyone thought," Jiraiya replied. "Bringing out all the stops, Tsunade whispered. Sending a reminder of what it means to sacrifice for the village brought back a lot of old memories, both good and bad. Her face contorted to a scowl and she said, "Well, he isn't going to change my mind, I'm not going back." She stood up. "Let's go, Shizune." Tsunade then left with Shizune following behind. "Almost got to her there," Jiraiya mused. "Not a bad plan, sensei, but you may have had the opposite effect of what you were trying to do." Just after Jiraiya left, a woman from the other side of the room got up from her table and left. She had been silently observing the exchange between the group of shinobi, but she went unnoticed because of the continuous distractions the shinobi were subjected to. As the woman made her way out of the village, she went to a small forest and fell to the ground. In her place was what appeared to a demon with white hair and a bone-plated arm. The demon began to transform into a human with black marks on his body. As he transformed, he called out, "Brother, I have the information." 4 figures appeared next to the now human. One person stepped forward and he began to absorb the first human. After a few moments the person turned to his companions, now spotting 2 heads. One right behind the other. One facing his companions and one away. "So Sakin, what is the news your brother has?" the only woman of the group asked. "Well, Tayuya," Sakin answered, "the Hyuga and the one called Shadow Claw have left the group. And although they made contact with Tsunade, they could not convince her to join them. Now's the perfect time to attack them and take the Hyuga's eyes." Orochimaru-sama said we should watch them, the largest one said. "Shut up you fat idiot," Tayuya said. Orochimaru-sama also said he wanted the Byakugan. "You ugly wench," the large one began. "Shut up Jirubu," the one with 6 arms said. "Tayuya and Sakin are right. We should take this chance while they are separated to finish the weaker ones." "Then let's get going," Sakin ordered. "We should still be cautious however," the 6-armed one warned. From what Kabuto said, this Shadow Claw is at Junin level and could compete on the same level of Uchiha Sasuke. The body Orochimaru-sama still wants. Kidomaru is right, Tayuya agreed, we should think of a plan first. "Very well," Sakin said, "my brother said that they were both tired from the trip here and should be resting. But that still does not give us much time." In his hotel room, Naruto woke from his slumber due to a ringing in his ear. He looked around the room and noticed that he was still alone. "Wonder how long I've been asleep." After looking at the clock next to his bed he cursed, "Damn. I didn't mean to sleep for 4 hours." He stood up and moved to the door. Better go see if Hinata-chan is alright. After they returned to the hotel he took Hinata into her room. The fatigue finally caught up to her and she was only half awake by the time they reached their rooms. He had to help her to the bed and as soon as she hit it she fell asleep. Leaving the room he noticed that the door to Hinata's room was slightly open. Naruto's first thought was, if Eros Sanin tried to peek at her I swear I'll kill him. When he moved closer to shut the door he noticed there was no sound of breathing coming from the room. Cautiously he opened the door and noticed the bed was empty. She wouldn't have left the hotel without trying to wake me, and I would have heard her. A creak from the stairs caught his attention. Moving to investigate the noise, Naruto saw Hinata just reach the bottom of the stairs. "Hinata-chan," he called but got no answer. Naruto rushed down the stairs to follow her after he got no response from his call. When he reached Hinata he stopped her with his hand and turned her around. When he met her face he realized she was in a trance and then noticed that the ringing in his ears had not left. "Someone put us under a genjutsu that attacks our hearing, but because I can detect sub-sonic noises I can hear the sound." He then thought for a minute, now how do you undo a genjutsu placed on someone else? After a few minutes he remembered and placed his hands on Hinata's forehead and said, "Release." Hinata blinked a few times and saw Naruto standing right in front of her. "Naruto-kun?" Hinata questioned, "What happened?" "You were under a powerful genjutsu that attacks using sound," Naruto answered. "The source is coming from outside the village. And I'm not sure where Eros Sanin or Tsunade is. We should find out who is after us," Hinata said. "That's what I was thinking, Hinata-chan," Naruto smiled. "Since the genjutsu was focused on us we can assume they are expecting us soon. The genjutsu doesn't affect me because I can hear the sound, and now that you know about it, it will no longer affect you. We can use that to our advantage and follow the source. They won't be expecting us not to be under the genjutsu and we can surprise them." "But we don't know how many there are," Hinata objected. "We can't just walk into a situation without knowing the numbers of enemies or their strengths." Naruto nodded. Hinata was right. "We need to find out who they are and what they want without us being at risk," Naruto thought out loud. "I know. I haven't used these in a long time." Naruto performed some hand seals calling, Kage Bushin no Jutsu. 2 Narutos appeared and then one immediately called, Henge, and transformed into Hinata. The original Naruto turned to Hinata. "This probably won't fool them for long. But it should give us enough time to see their numbers at least," Hinata finished. Back at the forest the Sound Four were impatiently waiting for the pair of shinobi to arrive. "Your genjutsu probably failed," Jirubu said. Tayuya paused from her flute, "Shut up you fat ass," and went back to her flute. Jirubu was about to retort when their targets entered the area. Because of the group's impatience they jumped down out of the trees without pause. When they approached they noticed something strange. "Wait," Tayuya said, "their eyes should not be that alert. Finally figured it out that your genjutsu has no effect on us?" the blonde taunted. No matter, Sakin said, Kidomaru. Kidomaru quickly performed several hand seals calling, Ninpo. Kumoshibari. A web shot out of his mouth and captured the two-leaf shinobi before they could act. The girl doesn't have the Hyuga curse seal, Sakin noticed. That means we can kill her and take her eyes. It'll be much less hassle than trying to take her alive. Then let me finish them, Jirubu said. I'm feeling rather hungry. Fine. Tayuya frowned. Just do it already. The longer we stay here the more likely the two Sannin will find us. Jirubu stepped forward doing some hand seals, but before he could finish Kidomaru whispered, "Stop, there are more people out there." The others looked at him and he continued, "At least 2 more are coming this way, it must be the Sannins, we don't have time for you to feed." Sakin pulled out 2 kunai, then we need to kill them quickly. He threw the kunai and when they hit their targets to all 4 surprise the 2 shinobi in the web disappeared in a burst of smoke. Damn, cage bushins, they're better than I thought. Just as Sakin finished speaking a person yelled, "Sword." A body then dashed into the clearing striking him in the chest sending him into a nearby tree. The other 3 had been able to jump out of the way but Tayuya had jumped the wrong way, as another person came from behind her and stuck at her neck. The second ninja then joined her partner soon after Tayuya hit the ground unable to move. 2 down, 2 to go, Naruto said as Hinata joined him. They both took their preferred stances preparing to attack again. They scanned the area but were only able to find the 2 they injured and the big one. Hinata-chan, where did the one with 6 arms go? Hinata activated her blood limit but before she could scan the entire area an arrow shot through the dark just narrowly missing the pair. The 2 then jumped away from each other in order to spread out the archer's targets. Unfortunately the 2 jumped right into the enemy's hands, literally. Sakin caught Naruto and Hinata was caught by Jirubu. Both were able to move fast enough to catch Naruto and Hinata because they activated the curse seals. When Naruto saw who had him he said, "You should be knocked out, I got a clean hit." "Not as clean as you think," Sakin smirked. "My brother blocked your kick just before it hit my chest. I don't know what kind of jutsu that was but it is no match for me." Naruto narrowed his eyes saying, "Don't underestimate shadow skill." Sakin was about to say something but Naruto yelled, "Tomahawk." He thrust his feet out hitting Sakin directly in the chin causing Naruto to drop. As soon as Naruto hit the ground he jumped and called, "Sword," knocking Sakin away. Meanwhile Jirubu held onto Hinata firmly saying, "Your chakra must be delicious since you're a Hyuga." He then began to absorb Hinata's chakra. Hinata tried to pull out but she lacked the strength to break free. As she felt her chakra being drained from her body she began to panic. "I haven't learned the Hake Sho Kaden yet. If I did then I could easily break free of his arms." Then she remembered, wait, the nerves in the forearms control the hands. Quickly channeling chakra into her legs she flung both legs up and hit Jirubu's right arm forcing him to loosen his grip. Taking the opportunity she had, Hinata rotated her body out of his left and dropped to the ground then began striking chakra holes. Jirubu jumped back and just as Hinata was about to pursue him an arrow stopped her advanced. Jumping away she decided it would be best to rejoin Naruto. As Hinata rejoined with Naruto under the cover of some trees so the archer could not spot them, Sakin and Jirubu gathered with Tayuya. "Can you stand?" Sakin asked. "Yeah," Tayuya stood though barely. "That little bitch must be a medic, she hit my neck messing up my muscle control." "Yes, they're better than we thought," Jirubu commented. "We'll have to use level 2, Sakin said. "We can't afford for them to team up with the Sannin." He then shouted, "Kiramaru, keep us covered." The 3 of the 4 sounds began to change once again, become artificial demons in their level 2 form. Hearing the shout and seeing the change Naruto cursed, "Damn, with the archer it will be harder for us to attack." He then looked at Hinata. "Hinata-chan, I need you to go and take out that 6-armed freak." "But Naruto-kun, you can't." "Yes I can," Naruto said, never taking his eyes off the enemy, "but only if that archer is preoccupied." "Okay Naruto-kun, you can count on me," Hinata said determined and dashed off to find the 4th enemy. The 3 saw Hinata leave and were about to go after her when Naruto's voice stopped them. "You aren't going anywhere. You're going to fighting me." "Ha ha ha ha," Sakin laughed. "At Curse Seal level 2 we are each 10 times stronger than we were before. And if you think your girlfriend will be safe by running away then you should know my brother is already after her. You think that little bit of power is enough to stop me?" Naruto taunted. "Let me show you what real power is." Naruto then used the quick release on his weights and they fell with a crash to the ground. "I am invincible." As Naruto began to speak, his muscles began to flex and his chakra output increased. "No one can defeat my shadow skill." As Naruto continued to speak, his muscles increased. The chakra output further exploded and the ground under him began to crack. "And no one can survive one of my blows." By the time Naruto finished, he was hunched over. The chakra output from his body had increased to beyond what the Four-Sound thought possible. When Naruto looked at his enemies, he could see the amazed looks on their deformed faces. "It's not over yet." Kamui. Further surprising, the three Naruto's muscles, which were nearly ripping out of his skin a second ago, began to relax. Though still visible, they did not look as large as before. Right before their eyes, Naruto vanished from sight. The next thing they heard was chainsaw, and then the transformed three each felt a devastating kick and were then sent flying backwards. Jirubu, being the largest and strongest, was the first to stand. He scanned the area, only finding his teammates. Soon after they stood up and he asked, "What did he do?" "I used the Kamui principle," Naruto answered from a tree not far away. "It relaxes my muscles, making me 6 times faster than before. That combined with the language of martial arts that increase my physical power and chakra output, you won't last 5 minutes against me. Even with those curse seals." Naruto then disappeared from sight again, and again each of the three felt another kick that sent them flying. Just after she left, Hinata felt a familiar rise in chakra coming from Naruto. That's like what happened when he fought Sasuke, only this time he feels even stronger. Shaking herself out of her shock, Hinata activated her Byakugan. It did not take her long to spot the fourth member of the Sound Four in a tree more than 200 meters away. He must have impeccable aim to hit a target at that distance. Hinata thought for a moment before deciding the best way to take out the archer would be to attack from behind at close range. But because she did not know how long Naruto could fight at the level he was at, she could not afford to waste time. "As long as I keep him in sight, I should be able to dodge his arrows." With her decision made, Hinata dashed off in a direct line to the archer. What she did not notice, however, was that a person was following her as she raced ahead. Kidomaru easily detected Hinata's approach as she came at him head-on. He turned to face her and shot out his arrow. Hinata dodged the attack and continued to move in, but to her surprise she saw a string of webbing attached to the end guiding the arrow, making it go where she dodged. Fortunately, she was quick enough to keep the arrow from hitting anything vital. Hinata ducked behind a tree, still using her blood limit to track her enemy. Hinata focused chakra into her hands and healed the damage the arrow inflicted. Kidomaru thought, "I saw what she was able to do to the others. If she get in close range, I'm done for. I have to finish her quickly, because from what I saw back at the others, unless I give them cover, that Shadow Claw guy will pick them apart. I still can't believe someone could produce that kind of power. If I focus on the chakra I saw him use to guide the arrows with the web," Hinata thought, "I may be able to cut them before the arrow can hit me as I dodge. The problem is that switching from sensing chakra to 360-degree sight continuously will use up a lot of my chakra, but that appears to be the best solution." After she fully healed her wound, Hinata charged her enemy once again. And again the enemy shot his arrow. Hinata leapt left and threw a shuriken at the chakra, traveling behind the arrow, and suddenly the chakra stopped flowing. She quickly switched back to 360 sight and dodged the erratic arrow and continued forward. "Damn, Kiramaru though," she cut the web. "I have to move before she gets here." He jumped from his sniper position and ran through the tree branches in hopes of losing his pursuer. Every now and again he would glance back to see if Hinata was still following, and every time he did, he saw she was right in a direct path to him. After he shot a couple of arrows to try and throw her off course, Kiramaru looked back one last time and suddenly found his pursuer gone. Where did she go? Kiramaru was looking around frantically when he heard, "You are in my range of deviation." Panicked Kiramaru shot his arrow in the direction of the voice. Too bad for him, he only was able to graze Hinata as she charged in, Hake Rokuju Yanshu. Hinata, with gentle fist and charka scalpels, struck so fast her hands were a mere blur as she struck her enemy, completely devastating him. As Kiramaru stumbled back and collapsed and Hinata dropped to her knees in exhaustion. "I've done it, Naruto-kun, you can finish them now. You may have finished him off, but you haven't dealt with me." Hinata turned to the voice and was shocked, But I thought you were fighting Naruto-kun. That is my brother Sakin, I am Yukon, the new arrival said. And with you being so weak you won't be any match for me. He rushed forward and punched at Hinata shouting, Ta Ren Ken. To Hinata it felt like 100 punches struck her at once. The sheer force of the punches sent her flying back about 3 meters, now you won't have in defense against this. Yukon approached Hinata and slowly began to merge his body with hers. What are you doing? Hinata asked as Yukon pulled his last limb into her. You should know that chakra flows through the body like blood, Yukon answered. I can merge my body with yours and use my chakra to attack your vital organs, like this. Ah! Hinata screamed at the amount of pain. She could feel Yukon attacking every one of her vital organs. It felt like hands were squeezing the very life out of her body. I don't have the chakra to fight back, otherwise I would do the same to him. That means there's only one option. Struggling to maneuver her hand, Hinata brought it to her next saying, if we are joined then what kills me will kill you. With that said she struck her neck and her body started to go limp. Yukon yelled, Ag, you bitch. He could feel his body begin to go limp as well as Hinata's and quickly extracted himself from her. As he did he saw Hinata struggling to stay awake. He said, clever striking your own body to hurt me, but to reverse the effect all I have to do is extract myself from your body. So now only you will die. As he turned to walk away his curse seal began to fade. Damn, I've been out of Sakin too long. I have to hurry back. Yukon started to run when he felt something pierce his back. You aren't going anywhere, Hinata said breathing heavily. She had chakra scalpels activated and extended into Yukon's lung. How? You were dead? Yukon asked. Just before he dropped he heard, I used a pressure point to simulate death for a few seconds to get you to leave my body so I could get a clean shot. Extracting her hands, Hinata dropped from complete exhaustion. Running through the forest were the 2 Sanin and the apprentice and traveling partner of Tsunade. They had been in town when they felt 4 very powerful chakra signatures spike into existence. Then to their amazement they felt another that seemed to dwarf the 4 previous erupt from the same area. Before they met to find the chakra sources. Just after Naruto left with Hinata and Jiraiya woke up, Tsunade left the bar to think. You damn old man making me think about them. She began to think of the 2 most important people she ever had in her life. He has my brother's smile, and when he looked at Hinata it was the look Dan gave looking at her. Thoughts were interrupted by Shizune. Tsunade-sama? Shizune asked, what will you do? Shizune had not seen her longtime friend like this in quite a while. She knew Tsunade better than anyone and knew by the look on her face she was thinking about the people she loved the most. I know it's not my place but I think you should go. She stopped when Tsunade's look began to get angry. Shizune, Tsunade began. Tsunade knew what Shizune was about to say, and if it were any other night she would have told her to mind her own business, in less polite terms. But right now she just did not have the will to say anything. Let's go to the hotel, I'm kind of tired. Shizune nodded silently and followed. Jiraiya was making his way back to the one place he could think, the bathhouse. The meeting between Tsunade had not gone as he expected. He had expected it to be much less painful, but maybe also more productive. He could see that they had struck a chord somewhere, but in the end she refused to bend. Damn woman is too stubborn for her or anyone's own good. His thoughts on Tsunade ended as he saw 3 young women enter the women's side and he began to take notes. About 4 hours after they left the bar the 3 ninjas felt 5 powerful chakra signatures. The 3 raced from their spots to the center of town. What was that? Shizune asked. Those first 4 felt like Orochimaru's curse seals, Tsunade answered, only more powerful. As for the 5th, I have no idea, I've never felt anything like it. That's exactly what the first 4 were, Jiraiya commented. That snake has refined the process to make them more powerful. And the 5th, I think it was Naruto. Naruto? Tsunade asked, but that wasn't the Kyuubi's chakra. According to Sensei, Jiraiya said, the Kyuubi is no longer in Naruto. At the mention of Kyuubi no longer being imprisoned both Tsunade and Shizune became horrified. It's not what you think, and I'll tell you later. But right now we need to help them. With that the 3 took off to help the younger shinobi. As they traveled through the forest they felt some of the signatures fade from existence. When they got closer they spotted signs of a recent battle and stopped to investigate. The first thing they came across was the body of a 6-armed man with clear indications he was involved in a battle with a Hyuga. The next was the Hyuga herself, lying next to another body with signs of being attacked with chakra scalpels. Tsunade began to shake as she saw blood coming from the bodies' mouths. Shizune, seeing this, investigated the Hinata's form. Looks like it's just chakra depletion. She should be fine, she said as she healed the wound from an arrow. Good, bring her, Jiraiya ordered. We have to find Naruto. Shizune picked up Hinata and the three moved away from the bodies with Tsunade in the lead. It was as if she wanted more to get away from the blood than find Naruto. Not far from where they found Hinata and the bodies, they found Naruto standing facing one remaining shinobi. There were two others, but one, that looked like the one Hinata killed, was dead and the other, a large man, was severely beaten. The only one left was staring in shock at the teenager before her as her curse seal retracted and her summons began to disappear in a cloud of smoke, utterly defeated. If you value your life, leave, came Jiraiya's voice. The woman, fearing for her life, from the monster of a human and prospect of fighting two of the Sannin, departed from the scene. After she left, Naruto stopped his techniques and fell to the ground. To a normal person he looked fine, but to a person with the ability to scan for injuries they could tell that he had massive internal damage from whatever he did to himself. This was what Hinata sensed as soon as she woke up in Shizune's arms. Naruto-kun. She broke free of her restraint and rushed to his side. Don't worry, I'll heal you. She brought her hands over Naruto's chest and tried to heal him. But unfortunately she did not have the chakra to even activate the healing jutsu. Naruto-kun. I'll heal you, don't worry. But as desperate as she was, she just did not have the chakra to do it. Naruto-kun. Naruto. Shizune was about to step in when a hand stopped her. She looked back and saw Jiraiya shaking his head. Shizune was about to smack his arm off when he gestured to Tsunade. Shizune turned to see Tsunade shaking from all the blood, but her gaze was fixed on Hinata, desperately trying to save Naruto. In Tsunade's eyes she did not see Hinata trying to save Naruto. She saw herself trying to save her fiancé, Dan. One side of her mind was screaming for her body to move to help save the young teenager. One side was frozen at the memory of her failing to save her love. And yet another frozen by her fear of blood. She remained immobile until she heard a whisper through all her conflicting thoughts ask, "Do you want her to go through what you did?" The whisper brought her out of her confusion. She pushed her fear of blood aside and sprinted toward the two young shinobi. When she got there, Hinata was still trying to activate her healing jutsus and still not succeeding. Move, Tsunade ordered as she pushed Hinata aside. Tsunade placed her hands on Naruto's chest and began to heal his wounds. For several minutes it seemed like nothing was happening, but Tsunade refused to quit. She kept pouring more of her own chakra into Naruto's body until they heard Naruto begin to cough. She paused and looked at the boy's face as he coughed some more until finally his breathing slowed and became regular. "I think you'll be fine," Tsunade said after Naruto started breathing normally. Jiraiya let go of Shizune and suggested, "Let's head back to town so everyone can rest." The next day Jiraiya began to explain everything about Naruto. To say Tsunade was shocked was an understatement. "That kid is a master of shadow skill? That's what I'm told," Jiraiya answered. Then he became puzzled. "How do you know about it?" "I was just told by Sensei before I was sent to find you." "You forget the first was my grandfather," Tsunade answered. "He told Sensei about shadow skill, and he also told me when I was a girl before he died." "Is shadow skill as powerful as everyone says it is?" Jiraiya asked. "Well, according to the legend the first told me," Tsunade said. "A master of shadow skill could destroy entire mountains, but it was just a legend." She then went silent, still after what we felt last night. Hinata entering the room, cutting off Tsunade's sentence. "Naruto-kun is awake." Not waiting for a reply, she disappeared back into Naruto's room. When the three joined Hinata in the room, they saw her wrap Naruto in a hug, slightly crying onto his shoulder. After a few minutes Hinata pulled back and Naruto asked, "How long have I been out?" Tsunade stepped forward. "You've been out for a little over a day." "I admit I'm pleasantly surprised you woke up so fast." "Only a day?" Naruto asked. "I should have been out for at least 2 or 3. His statement caught everyone's attention. "What do you mean you should be out for 2 or 3 days? Tsunade asked. "When I fight using a combination of the language of martial arts with the Kamui principle, I fight at an extremely high level. If it wasn't for my fast healing, I would never be able to do them both at once. And considering the length of time I fought, my body should have shut itself down for at least 2 days." shut itself down? Shizune asked. One of the safeguards of shadow skill, Naruto explained. All of the techniques require vast amounts of chakra, and if the user uses too much in any technique, the body automatically shuts down. It happens when the user of shadow skill has just enough to keep from dying. You can't override it even by inducing the two techniques. Of course, after I disengage the techniques, my body shuts down anyway in order to heal any damage that was done. Why didn't you tell us this before, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. I did, remember, Naruto replied. I told you and Jiraiya as we traveled here. When you were feeling tired, and I offered to carry you because we did not want to stop. I said, I'm fine, really. I haven't begun to push myself, and even if I did, I would immediately fall unconscious so my body would recover. It's a safeguard in shadow skill. Now that you mention it, I do remember you saying that, Hinata said. I guess just seeing you like that made me panic. And I guess Tsunade-sama did not need to heal you after all. But thank you for worrying and healing me, Naruto said. He turned to Tsunade and saw she was extremely pissed. But apparently not at him, because she and Shizune were facing Jiraiya. That's why you held me back, Shizune accused. There was no danger of Naruto dying at all. Jiraiya, Tsunade said, cracking her knuckles, you put me through that on purpose. She began to advance on Jiraiya. Now Tsunade, it did cure your hemophobia, Jiraiya said, backing up, turning paler by the second. You should thank me. That was the wrong thing to say as Tsunade punched Jiraiya, sending him through the several walls and outside the hotel. Tsunade turned to a very confused Naruto and smiled, saying, as soon as you've rested a little more, we'll all head back to Konoha. I'm okay, Naruto replied, having no clue what they were talking about. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.